Chapter 1055. In the next instant, Sure Susu's figure was completely swallowed by the dazzling white light and disappeared. In the direction where she had been looking, a Xianyang golden demon falcon flew over quickly. Beside it were a few other powerful savage beasts, and there were many people standing on them. It seems to be that woman. Could it really be her? Su-yi stood on the Xianyang golden demon falcon and raised his eyebrows as he muttered to himself. The woman who had just looked at him gave Su-yi a sense of familiarity. Thinking back, he had come into contact with her a few times in the savage demon forest. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. I didn't expect her to be from the Chaos region. Looking at the clothes of the people around her, they seemed to be from the Blue Cloud Hall? Sui frowned as he muttered to himself. The woman he had just seen was none other than the person who had disguised herself as an old man and sneaked into the Black Fiend's sex mine. When Sui was looking for an opportunity to escape, he was tricked by the other party, and there was some enmity between the two sides. Later on, that person was injured and soaked in water. When Sui rescued him, he discovered that the other party was a woman. When she woke up, she thought that Sui was a perverted thief and sent him flying with a palm strike. Regarding this, Sui, who was bound to take revenge, did not kill the woman. Instead, he used a method that was even worse than killing the other party to deal with her. After such a long time, I don't know if she has discovered the truth. Sui rubbed his nose as he muttered to himself. If things went wrong, the other party might still think that he had done that to her. However, Sui did not feel guilty about this at all. He was already being lenient by not killing his enemy. Moreover, at that time, he was indeed no match for the woman. However, it was different now. Sui believed that his strength was definitely above the other party. She came from the Blue Cloud Hall. Could that broken sword also be from the Blue Cloud Hall? If that's the case, it might be a little troublesome. In the end, Sui frowned and muttered in his heart. The broken sword was found in the lady's interspatial bag, and it was definitely one of Su-yi's trump cards. If the people of the Blue Cloud Hall wanted him to hand over the broken sword, Su-yi would absolutely not agree. However, the other party was a first-rate force after all, and he could not afford to offend them. We have arrived at the secret realm of ominous spirits. Just as Su-yi was lost in thought, Chen Chu-an's voice rang out, interrupting Su-yi's train of thought. Let's go meet that little girl first. Without further ado, Su-yi stepped into the air with Chen Chuan, Shen Hong and Yi Haokong and arrived before the two mountains. Let's go too. Behind him, Yuan Xuan, Ji Hanoa, Lin Donghao, Lin Bingyao, and the rest of the people from Xianjian sect and Liuhe sect followed closely behind Sui. Is this young man Sui? There were still a few people from the top 10 forces who had arrived earlier. Among them, Shang Wangqin from the Boundless Palace looked at the young man who had just arrived with a burning gaze. He immediately determined the young man's identity. Shang Wangqin was very interested in the champion of the Middle State Sacred Martial Arts Conference and the person who had recently caused a huge commotion in the Chaos region. After looking at Sui, Shang Wangqin's eyes wandered and no one knew what he was thinking. Let's go. Immediately after, he led the disciples from the Boundless Palace and plunged into the dazzling light. That was Shang Wangqin from the Boundless Palace. He's very powerful. Lin Donghao walked to Su-yi's side and said to him, Let's go in too. Su-yi did not say much. He only nodded and plunged into the dazzling white light with the rest of the disciples. As time passed, the other third-rate forces such as the Gui Yuan sect, the Fire Dragon sect, and the Ju Tian sect who had qualified for the conference arrived one after another and entered the secret realm of great spirits. When everyone's body was enveloped by the white light, they all felt as if the sky and earth were spinning. However, in the next moment, the scene in front of them suddenly changed and they appeared in a brand new area. Secret realm of great spirits, Su-yi appeared at the top of a small mountain. He was surrounded by old forests and ancient trees. Beneath his feet were soft withered leaves that gave off a rotting smell. However, there were not many weeds or shrubs growing. Chen Chuan, Shen Hong, Yi Haokong, Ji Hanua, Lin Bingyao, and the others who had entered the secret realm of great spirits with Su Yi were all gone. This was the uniqueness of the white light at the entrance. It could disperse everyone who had entered into the secret realm and randomly distribute them in the outer area of the secret realm. Sizzle sizzle, Su Yi found a direction and moved forward. His feet stepped on the withered leaves and made a sound. The secret realm of great spirits was a place that had been set up by the experts of the top 10 forces in the Chaos Zone. At this time, it was used to test the young experts of this generation, and there were many benefits in it. However, Su Yi also heard that the secret realm had not been completely explored. There might still be some great opportunities. If they were lucky, those who entered the test would also be able to obtain them. In this alliance conference, after everyone entered the secret realm of great spirits, besides looking for these benefits, the most important thing was to gather at the center of the secret realm. There was a Nirvana dragon stage there. 10 people of the younger generation could ascend it and obtain the greatest benefits in the secret realm. The 10 people who succeeded in ascending the stage would be hailed as the 10 most outstanding talents in the Chaos Zone. In another few decades, the changes in the entire Chaos Zone would change according to their will. I have to reach the center of the secret realm within 9 days. Before that, I'd better search for more benefits. Su Yi muttered to himself as he moved quickly in the forest. He had no idea where he was and how far he was from the center. Therefore, the most important thing now was to find some clues to prevent himself from running around like a headless fly. In addition, Su Yi did not plan to give up on some spiritual herbs and such. At this time, not only Su Yi, but the 3 first-rate forces, 7 second-rate forces, and 10 third-rate forces added up to about 800 people, were scattered in various places in the secret realm. With such a large area, the possibility of 2 people meeting at the same place was not small. However, as they moved, they would gradually gather together. They have entered the secret realm of Great Spirit. What we can see will be very limited. In the square of 9 Star City, many people gathered together and watched as the light screen above the 10 arenas dimmed. The secret realm of Great Spirits was very big. No matter how rich the top 10 forces were, they could not set up means to project the scene in every place. However, they had already prepared for some key places. Once someone passed by, it would trigger the reaction there. The square would also see the movement there in real time. Swoosh! Suddenly, the dim light screen trembled, and a figure appeared on it. Beside the figure was a small pool, emitting an icy cold mist. Wow! It's Blue Cloud Palace's Shirsusu. So beautiful! She triggered the means set up by the strong. There must be some treasure nearby. Most likely, it should be in that pool. The crowd in the square that was silent suddenly burst into a burst of exclamations. The beautiful figure that appeared was too attractive, but her beautiful face was cold and elegant, and at the same time, it was difficult for people to have any evil thoughts. The person who appeared was none other than the disciple of the first-rate force, Blue Cloud Palace, Shirsusu. She was projected to the square at this time, indicating that there was definitely a treasure nearby. The possibility of it being hidden in the pool next to it was very high. Everyone was looking forward to it, very much wanting to know what Shirsusu would get in the end. Sure enough, under the gaze of many pairs of eyes, the exquisite figure directly stepped into the void, and arrived above the small pool. Origin Void Realm. Such a scene immediately caused a commotion in the square. At this time, Shirsusu was not standing in the air using the Yuan Qi transformation method. Instead, she was actually floating in the air. This could only be done by an Origin Void Realm expert. I didn't expect that among the younger generation of a first-rate force, there would really be someone who had stepped into the Origin Void Realm. That Shirsusu is only a little over 20 years old. To be able to reach such a level, it's too unbelievable. Someone exclaimed in shock, marveling at the woman that appeared on the light screen. According to what I know, Susu has not reached the origin void realm in a day or two. I estimate that she had successfully stepped into that step a year ago. Someone at the side took over the conversation and said something that was even more shocking. She's about to make a move. At this moment, everyone saw that there were waves of yuan qi that began to spread out from Susu's body. It turned into a hurricane that swept and danced in the air above the pool. Under the influence of this power, a huge inverted whirlpool appeared in the clear jade pool, and it actually moved towards the sky. Swoosh, following that, under a flash of light, a long black shadow suddenly jumped out from the pool, somewhat catching everyone off guard. Frost demonic dragon, demonic void realm. There was another long exclamation in the square. Everyone was shocked. The black shadow that appeared was the body of a huge dragon. Its entire body was snow-white, as if it was made of ice, and it released a terrifying aura. Even if they only saw it on the light screen, many people could not help but shiver, as if their bodies were about to be frozen stiff. Through the means of an expert they could see the scene, but they could not hear the sound at the scene. However, everyone saw the frost demonic flood dragon open its huge mouth and let out a ferocious roar. Swoosh, swoosh, following that, Susu did not waste any time. A long sword appeared in her hand, and she quickly engaged in a battle with the frost demonic dragon. Suddenly, waves of terrifying energy exploded. The frost demonic dragon spat out icy light pillars from time to time, madly attacking. Chapter 1056. Susu is so strong. In the square, many of the onlookers were extremely shocked. That woman's strength was obviously extremely powerful. With the strength of the origin void stage, she was able to fight against the frost demonic dragon. As time passed, she even gained the upper hand. Sword light and wind blades swept out, occasionally brushing against the frost demonic dragon's body, causing it to writhe in pain again and again. The flood dragon opened its mouth wide and let out a painful roar again and again, accompanied by terrifying icy light pillars. However, the frost demonic dragon's attacks became more and more chaotic. It was difficult to hit the swift Susu, and the injuries on its body became more and more serious. In the end, it twisted its body and dove back into the pool, not daring to fight again. What terrifying strength! She is an absolute powerhouse among the younger generation. She is indeed the #1 person among the younger generation of the Blue Cloud Hall. She will definitely have a place in the Nirvana Dragon Arena. On the spectator's stand, an old man spoke with admiration. Elder Xie, who was dressed in a red robe, kept nodding with a smile on his face. Obviously, he was proud of Susu's cultivation. She was the most outstanding disciple of the Blue Cloud Hall. Susu has also entered the water. Soon, when the frost demonic dragon disappeared, Susu stood in the void and pondered for a moment. Then, she dove into the water and disappeared. That treasure must be under the water, guarded by the frost demonic dragon. After Susu goes down, she should be able to get it smoothly. This light screen should dissipate for the time being. It will appear again when she comes out. With Susu's disappearance, there was no movement at the original place. The image projected from there also began to fade. However, just as all the images were about to disappear, a figure suddenly flashed, and the whole scene became clear again. Everyone looked up and saw a figure appear on the light screen. He was also standing in the air above the pool. It's him. It's Sui of the Bawang sect. He also found this place. Everyone cried out in surprise. The figure that appeared was all too familiar. A few days ago, it had caused quite a commotion in the primary selection. It could be said that there was almost no one in the 9-star city who didn't know Sui. He is also in the origin void stage. How is this possible? When they saw that Su-yi was also able to stand in the void without the use of yuan qi to transform, everyone once again let out a cry of astonishment. In the previous primary selection, the young man's performance was strong enough, but he always used yuan qi to rush into the air and fought with the 7-star sword school and the Gimdeo sect. Everyone felt that there was no doubt that the young man's cultivation was at the peak of the 9th level Yuan Zhen realm. Who would have thought that they would see such a shocking scene? A origin void stage. The sound of people swallowing their saliva could be heard. Who knew how many people's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets? CW Original Chapter Part 0. A 17-year-old origin void stage expert. Was he a freaking monster? How on earth did he cultivate? Everyone in the square was inexplicably shocked and made a terrible noise. This included the numerous aged figures in the spectator stands. They were shocked to the extreme, and all of them were unable to conceal the shock in their hearts. A 17-year-old origin void stage. It was probably rare to see a person in the 6 continents, the 3 continents, the one world, and the chaos region. In comparison, those of the older generation who could not break through to the origin void stage in their lifetime, did that not mean that their cultivation was in vain? This was too shocking. He is actually in the origin void stage. Among everyone, Elder Wu from the Big Dipper sect was also sitting in the stands. However, unlike the others, who were simply shocked, Elder Wu was now filled with a deep sense of worry. The disciples of the Big Dipper sect, under the leadership of the young sect Master Hong Jianxiu, were already prepared to kill Su-yi in the secret territory. If they did not know the situation and directly went against him, they might suffer a great loss. How could Hong Jianxiu be a match for a young man in the origin void stage? Wanting to kill that young man was no different from courting death. At this moment, Elder Wu's heart was in his throat. He could not wait to rush into the secret territory and warn the Big Dipper sect disciples. However, this was not realistic. The Alliance Conference was not a place where the Big Dipper sect had the final say. It was impossible for the 3 first-rate forces to do anything at this time. Everything depended on Hong Jianxiu and the others. Good luck. Su-yi has also entered the pool. While everyone was still in shock, the young man stood in midair and watched for a while. Then, he also entered the pool. Not long after, all the images gradually faded and disappeared. Susu and Su-yi's figures could no longer be seen. The crowd's emotions were stirred up. They were extremely shocked by what they had just seen. Swoosh. But soon, a new scene appeared. It was Yin Shangyuan from the Crimson Sun sect. Once again, he drew everyone's attention away from the square. In the secret territory of Big Dipper sect, after Su-yi jumped into the pool, he felt a wave of cold air attack him. It wanted to penetrate his internal organs and freeze him completely. However, with a gentle circulation of his yuan qi, all these feelings were eliminated. In fact, even without the protection of his yuan qi, this kind of cold air could not hurt him. The diamond body that had been tempered by the golden dragon's blood essence was not afraid of this level of cold air. The commotion came from here. Someone has beaten me to it. I wonder which force it is. At the same time, Su-yi thought to himself as he dove. He had walked out of the old forest. Less than 2 hours later, he felt the commotion here. It seemed like someone was fighting. When Su-yi arrived at the pool, all the energy waves had disappeared. However, just from the cold air emitted by the pool, Su-yi could tell that this was not an ordinary place. Therefore, he went down to explore, hoping to find some treasures. Gurgle gurgle, bubbles rose around him as Su-yi continued to dive. After diving for about 100 feet, he was surprised to find that there was a different world under the pool. It was as if he had entered the stomach of a gourd. It was very spacious. In the distance, a person and a dragon were fighting fiercely. Icy demonic dragon. It's her. What a coincidence. Su-yi raised his eyebrows. He could not help but think as he looked at the face of the person who was fighting. The person who was fighting fiercely with the icy demonic dragon was the woman he had caught a glimpse of before entering the secret territory. She was also the person who had many conflicts with Sui. When Sui saw this, he hurriedly found an enormous underwater rock to hide. He restrained the aura on his body and started to observe the battle. He did not know the exact situation below, so he did not intend to make a move for now. He wanted to observe for a while first. Her strength is very strong. She seems to be much stronger than when I saw her that day. Sui rubbed his chin as he sized up the woman and thought in his heart. He was utterly unable to see through her cultivation at that time. Today, he was able to notice that the woman was actually close to the second level of the origin void stage, and her cultivation was not much inferior to his. Such strength was extremely terrifying. She had left countless geniuses behind her. At this moment, strength burst out from the woman's entire body. Wind attribute energy surged violently and set off enormous waves under the water that surged violently. Numerous sword lights shot out and forced the icy demonic dragon into a hopeless situation. The two of them dove down again and were about to fall to the bottom of the pool. That's Ice Soul Water Lily? Suddenly, Suyi's gaze moved. After his gaze swept over the bottom of the pool, he saw a snow-white plant rooted at the bottom of the pool, and it swayed along with the waves of the water. This snow-white plant looked like a coral at the bottom of the sea, but it looked more like it was made of snow that was sparkling and translucent. Sui recognized it. This plant was called Ice Soul Water Lily. It was a type of star-grade spirit medicine that was extremely rare. Ice Soul Water Lily can temper the soul. Sui thought of the plant's effect and could not help but be tempted. He looked at the fierce battle below. Seizing the opportunity when the icy demonic dragon and the woman were both unprepared, he fiercely stomped on the ground and shot out like an underwater cannonball, flashing straight towards the Ice Soul Water Lily. In less than the time of a breath, Sui quickly closed in. He waved his hand and struck out a light hand seal to seize the Ice Soul Water Lily. This movement immediately attracted the attention of the icy demonic dragon and the woman at the same time. Roar! The icy demonic dragon roared and ignored the woman, rushing towards Suyi's direction. It did not expect that in addition to the woman, there was a human here who wanted to steal the Ice Soul Water Lily. Pervert, it's you. Sure. Susu also saw Suyi's face at this time, and her whole temperament suddenly changed. She raised her sword and rushed out, her body shuttling back and forth like a fish in the water. She frowned and slashed down with her sword without any hesitation. She had no intention of showing any mercy at all. Evil beast, how dare you! Sui snorted coldly as he activated the primordial origin supreme technique within his body. A powerful oppressive force instantly spread out and ruthlessly suppressed the icy demonic dragon. For Sui, the last thing he was afraid of was a barbaric beast. As long as it was not too much stronger than him, the Origin Supreme technique would form an absolute suppression. In an instant, the icy demonic dragon was stunned as if it had been hit hard. It was about to crawl down. Woman who bites the hand that feeds her. Sui did not care about the icy demonic dragon. With a twist of his body, he hastily dodged the incoming sword. He did not want to take the attack of an Origin Void stage expert head-on, not to mention that this woman was definitely stronger than an ordinary Origin Void stage expert. With a flip of his body, Sui jumped to the side and stopped trying to seize the Ice Soul Water Lily. Instead, he frowned and stared at the woman opposite him. Pervert, I did not expect you to dare to appear. Today, I must kill you. Chapter 1057. Sure. Susu no longer paid any attention to the Frost Demon Dragon and the Ice Spirit Water Lily. She did not dare to tell anyone about what she had experienced in the Barbarian Demon Forest, not even her master. Although later on, Sure Susu also found out that she wasn't really violated, but she was really stripped naked by that young man. Furthermore, her first kiss had been taken away, and her body had been touched by the young man. He had even seen everything. All of this was no different from losing her virginity. If news of this were to spread, not only would she be laughed at, but the Ash Cloud Palace would also be laughed at by many cultivators in the Chaos Territory. Not only that, but the space bag on her had also been snatched away by the young man, including the most important broken sword in it. After Sure Susu had left the barbarian demon forest, she had tried to find the young man for revenge and retrieve the broken sword. However, she had returned empty-handed. Who would have thought that the young man would appear in the Chaos Territory and participate in the Alliance Conference? There was only one thing in Sure Susu's mind at the moment, and that was to cut the detestable young man in front of her into 18 pieces with her sword to make up for the humiliation she had suffered. Then, she would take his space bag and retrieve what belonged to her. You ungrateful woman. Luckily, I was kind enough to save you. Otherwise, you would have died a long time ago without even leaving a piece of you. Su Yi's eyes narrowed as he spoke furiously. He really wanted to do a good deed. He was even willing to save the life of his enemy. How many people in this world could be as noble as him? However, this woman wanted to kill him as soon as she saw him. It was just like the old saying, good intentions are not rewarded. Burning incense will provoke ghosts. You must be Su Yi from the Bawang sect. Hurry up and return my blood demon killing god sword to me. I'll consider giving you a quick death. Sure Susu's entire body surged with terrifying killing intent as she charged towards Su Yi. She immediately guessed the identity of the young man who had entered the secret realm of ominous spirits at such a young age. So that broken sword is called the Blood Demon Killing God Sword. What a domineering name! Su Yi muttered. The Blood Demon Killing God Sword that the woman was talking about was definitely that broken sword. He looked at the woman in front of him and said indifferently, I don't care what kind of sword it is. In short, I can't return it to you. Just treat it as your reward for saving my life. What kind of joke was this? The broken sword was one of his strongest trump cards. How could he return it so easily? Speaking of which, not only did this woman not thank him for saving her life, she even wanted to kill him. This made it even more impossible for him to return her things. Pervert, you're courting death. Sure Susu shouted coldly, her beautiful face as cold as ice. She let out a shout and swung the longsword in her hand. Wind attribute energy spread out crazily and formed a terrifying sword light under the water, slashing towards Su Yi. The sword light was world-shaking, and the terrifying power spread out fiercely. A space was directly cut open at the bottom of the water. I don't have time to play with you here. Su Yi's mouth twitched as he brazenly punched out, heading straight for the sword light. However, this punch was gentle and did not really collide with the sword light. This caused his body to shoot backward and fall beside the ice soul water coral in an instant. Su Yi did not hesitate and grabbed it, plucked it, and threw it into his space bag. Next to him, the ice demon dragon let out a strange cry and seemed to want to rush up. However, when it felt the aura of the Origin Supreme technique on Su Yi, it did not dare to move. It was unwilling to give up. Get out of my way, or I won't be polite to you. Su Yi took the ice soul water coral in his hand and shouted coldly at the woman again. He had seen the woman with the people from the Ash Cloud Palace. In addition, he had heard of the outstanding people of the major forces, so he guessed her name at this time. As he shouted coldly, Su Yi swam underwater and floated up, ready to leave the pool. Pervert, I'm going to kill you. Seeing Su Yi's movements, Sure Susu shouted and raised her sword to attack again. How could she let Su Yi leave so easily? The cultivation of the Origin Void stage was activated. The Origin Chi of the Wind attribute spun wildly at the bottom of the pool, turning into dense and terrifying wind blades. They whistled and danced, rushing horizontally and vertically, cutting the bottom of the pool into pieces. These wind blades were like 10,000 swords returning to their master. All of them were aimed at Sui. Ice Shadow Sword Art. Sui pinched his fingers as a sword, and a fierce aura swept out, accompanied by a cold aura. In an instant, the surrounding pool water was completely frozen, turning into solid ice. Crack, 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 countless wind blades shuttled through and cut the solid ice, but their speed was also sharply reduced, and their power was greatly reduced. It was difficult to form an effective attack. Chi-La then, a sword light shot out from Suyi's fingers and broke the solid ice in front of him, creating a passage that allowed him to pass through. Sui went up, not intending to be entangled with Shirsusu here. There were many benefits in the secret realm of ominous spirits, and he needed to search for more. Many spiritual herbs and so on could be planted in the mysterious space. How could he waste time here? However, Shirsusu would not let him go so easily. She did not give up, and with another wave of the long sword in her hand, she broke the solid ice in front of her and quickly chased after him. Swoosh! Just as the two of them were about to break out of the water, Shirsusu shot out another sword light. Sui did not slack off. He turned around instantly, and an ordinary long sword appeared in his hand. At the same time, he slashed out a sword light to meet the attack. Boom! Under the collision of the two forces, a loud bang was heard, and the pool water was thrown up hundreds of feet high, scattering in the void. It was like a scene of a fairy scattering flowers. Look, there's movement again. In the square of 9-Star City, the light screen flickered, and then the crowd saw countless splashes of water, as if there was a downpour. When the splashes fell and returned to the pool, two figures appeared in the crowd's sight one after another. Shirsusu, Sui, the two of them are fighting. The crowd saw a young man and a woman standing opposite each other. Their auras were surging wildly, and the long swords in their hands were emitting sword light. Then they suddenly clashed. After that, the two figures quickly disappeared from the range of the light screen, and they never appeared again. Looking at the gradually dimming light screen, the square was instantly bustling with noise and excitement. Sui is so strong. That's Shirsusu, the most talented person in this generation of the Blue Cloud Palace. She can even be said to be the most talented person in this generation of the Chaos Realm. Sui is even more abnormal. He can actually fight with Shirsusu. I wonder who will win in the end. Also, who got the treasure below? Is it Sui or Shirsusu? It must have fallen into the hands of one of them. This battle is probably because of the treasure. Many people were amazed by the strength of Sui and Shirsusu, especially Sui. He was much younger than Shirsusu, but his cultivation had reached the origin void realm, which was unbelievable. Everyone wanted to know the outcome of the battle between two such outstanding people. In addition, what was the treasure below the pool, and who got it in the end, were the questions that everyone was concerned about. However, it was a pity that they couldn't see these scenes. The two of them had already left the range of their view. But the more it was like this, the more the crowd felt their hearts itch. They couldn't wait to see the battle between the two with their own eyes. In the secret realm of megaspirits, two figures, one in front and one behind, flashed quickly like flying birds. Woman who bites the hand that feeds her, I don't have time to play with you. Sui curled the corner of his mouth. He just wanted to get rid of this woman. The most important thing for him was to find the treasure here and make a fortune silently. He didn't have time to waste with her. But the helpless thing was that this woman wouldn't let him go. She looked like she wouldn't let him go until he was dead, which made Suyi's head hurt. Pervert, no matter where you run to, I will cut you down with my sword. Shirsusu gritted her teeth and said fiercely. In fact, she was also extremely shocked. Back then, this kid was incomparably weak in front of her. If it wasn't because he was injured in the battle with the Black Fiend sect, she could kill him with a finger. But now, things had changed. This Su Yi's strength was actually not below hers. In the previous rounds, she couldn't hurt him at all. This made her shocked and angry. Sure, Susu had already lost her rationality. She only wanted to kill this kid. You're really annoying. Su Yi, who was moving forward, suddenly stopped and stood in the air. He coldly stared at Sure Susu, who had stopped and was waiting for him. He said coldly, "Don't follow me anymore. Otherwise, I really won't be polite to you." Su Yi felt that he had already brewed a bellyful of anger, but he had saved her life, so he couldn't kill her now, right? Moreover, Sure Susu was a disciple of the Blue Cloud Palace. If he killed her, the Blue Cloud Palace would probably drag him out no matter what. Su Yi had just settled down in the Chaos Realm, so he couldn't continue to live a life of desperation. "I'd like to see how you're going to be impolite to me." Sure Susu's pretty face also darkened. She was actually threatened by the other party. If she could endure this, what could she endure? If she didn't vent the anger in her heart and take back the blood demon killing god sword, she definitely wouldn't let this matter rest. Walala, just as Sure Susu's words fell, suddenly, her delicate body began to release a biting cold strength chi. It was like a sharp blade, cutting through the air and emitting an ear-piercing howl. With a single word, Sure Susu prepared to attack again. This crazy woman! Su Yi cursed loudly. He felt that meeting such a woman was truly a disaster in his life. Chapter 1058. Su Yi pushed his speed to the limit, and his wind attribute energy circulated endlessly, hoping to get rid of Sure Susu as soon as possible. But that woman also possessed wind attribute energy, and her movement technique was extraordinary, so it was not easy for Su Yi to shake her off. From time to time, Su Yi still had to turn around and block Sure Susu's attacks. Under this chase, half a day quickly passed. And just when they passed by the vicinity of a mountain ridge, Su Yi sensed the aura of a powerful barbaric demon beast appear. "I've got it!" His eyes abruptly lit up as he thought of a pretty good idea. Su Yi's speed increased, and he headed towards the mountain ridge. After passing through the mountain, the aura of the barbaric demon beast became clearer and clearer. A second-level demon void stage mystic king demon tiger, it should be more than enough to block her. Su Yi saw a cave, and borrowing the dim light, he was able to see an enormous fierce tiger lying inside, glaring at him covetously. Roar! When the mystic king demon tiger saw someone approaching, it instantly emitted a low roar from its throat, and it swiftly crawled up from the ground, assuming a posture of wanting to pounce. "Block that woman behind me. After I've gone far away, you can get rid of her yourself." Su Yi didn't dawdle in the slightest, and he directly circulated the Origin Supreme technique, deterring the mystic king demon tiger into submission. "Pervert, let's see where you can run to." Sure Susu's delicate shout sounded out, and she followed closely behind Su Yi's footsteps. But right in the next instant, a shadow flashed before her eyes, accompanied by a roar, and an enormous fierce tiger pounced over, causing Sure Susu to be shocked. Before she could react, this fierce tiger had already launched a fierce attack towards her, as if it wanted to eat her. "You guys have fun, I'll be leaving first." Su Yi waved his hand, and after lightly smiling at Sure Susu, he whistled and instantly left. Seeing this scene, Sure Susu's teeth itched. She truly didn't know why this mystic king demon tiger clearly bumped into Su Yi first, but insisted on charging towards her. But now that she was tightly restrained, Sure Susu could only hate in her heart. It wasn't easy to get rid of this Xian King Demon Tiger. A Xian King Demon Tiger of the Demon Illusionary stage. TSK. I wonder if there were any treasures there. Su Yi sped away, thinking about some things. It seemed like the secret realm of ominous spirits was filled with danger. Although he was not afraid of it, most of the people who entered this place were of Yuan Zhen stage. If those people were to encounter a demonic illusionary stage barbaric beast, they wouldn't even be able to escape in time. Let's hope they can handle it. As for Yu Wenshuan, Lin Donghao, and the others, Su Yi was not worried. These people's strength was not bad, and with some life-saving methods, even if they were no match for him, they could still escape. What he was afraid of was Ji Hanua, who was not very strong, and Chen Chuan, who was a poor rogue cultivator, who did not even have a life-saving treasure. However, Sui did not think too much about it. It seemed that some things could only be left to fate. It was not something he could change. In fact, what Sui did not know was that although everyone who entered the secret realm of ominous spirits would be randomly distributed, everyone would appear in different areas according to their cultivation level. The reason why he encountered 2 demonic illusionary stage barbaric beasts in half a day was because he was in different areas. As long as those who were not too strong were not too unlucky and accidentally walked into these dangerous places, they should be able to handle most of the dangers. Let's continue with my plan to get rich. Sui did not think about these things anymore. He had just entered the secret realm of ominous spirits, and he had already gained a lot. This made him feel good. A stalk of icy soul water coral could be sold for a lot of yuan stones outside. If he planted it in the mysterious space, it would be worth more when its quality was improved. But there is no pool in the mysterious space. Su Yi's expression suddenly froze as he thought of something very helpless. Although the mysterious space was huge, other than the ground, there was nothing else in it. Those native spiritual herbs were still fine. They could be planted directly. But how could he plant aquatic plants in it? Can we develop it and create mountains, rivers, lakes, and so on? Suddenly, Su Yi's mind spun quickly and this idea popped up in his mind. The mysterious space was so huge. Since he could open up a medicinal field and plant spiritual herbs. Based on this, it should be possible to move a few big mountains and a few big rivers in it. In this way, could he develop an independent world that belonged to him? If it could really be like this, that would be great. Su Yi immediately became excited and could not control himself. If it really went according to his plan, then the mysterious space would really be an independent small world. If he could let the energy in it evolve on its own and produce spiritual qi without the need to swallow yuan stones, then it would be perfect. If there is a chance, I must do this. Su Yi felt that this idea was totally worth a try. His idea would definitely be realized. He thought for a while. If there was a chance, should he catch some able-bodied men and put them in the mysterious space to cultivate the land and dig out a man-made lake to plant the icy soul water lily in first? Thinking of that beautiful scene, Su Yi felt very happy. He felt like he was floating as he walked. Time passed very quickly. Su Yi walked and stopped in the secret realm of ominous spirits. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. This secret realm also had night time, which was synchronized with the outside world. When the thick darkness shrouded the land, Su Yi was still like an agile leopard moving about in the forest. He didn't want to waste any time, all for the sake of finding more spiritual herbs. To Su Yi, those were all glittering primordial stones. After such a long time, he also had some harvest, but it was not very rich. Most of the spiritual herbs that he found were of the celestial grade. Su Yi was not interested in them now. Other than the icy soul water lily, there was only one glazed stardew fruit that was of the star grade. It was a pity that the vine of the glazed stardew fruit began to wither after the fruit was plucked. It could not be transplanted. Otherwise, Su Yi would definitely plant it in the mysterious space. There are not many treasures left in this secret realm that have been plundered. Su Yi was a little emotional. It was better to be a powerful force. They could occupy some secret realms that were blessed by nature and reap great benefits from it. For young people like him, this secret realm had been plundered by the experts of the Alliance. There were not many treasures left, and their grades were not too high. If there were any treasures, most of them would be fishes that escaped the net. In the night, Su Yi continued to walk. Not long after, he met a brute demon beast that was only at the 7th level of the demon true realm. Su-yi used the art of the Origin Supreme to intimidate it. He then asked directly, "Are there any treasures around here?" If he wanted to find treasures, it was naturally the most effective to ask the brute demon beasts that were most active in this area. "My lord, there aren't any good treasures around here. There is only a purple emperor infant fruit tree growing in a mountain stream not far away. However, the purple emperor infant fruit on it has already been plucked." This was a monkey-type brute demon beast. It shook its head at Su-yi and said regretfully, "What? Purple emperor infant fruit tree? Bring me there quickly." Su-yi exclaimed in surprise and said urgently. He had heard of the purple emperor infant fruit tree. The fruit on it was shaped like an infant. When it matured, it would be purple from the inside out. It was extremely effective. Even if an ultimate Emperor Realm expert consumed it, it would have the effect of increasing their cultivation. This kind of treasure was very rare. The fruit had probably been plucked by the experts of the Alliance long ago. However, Su-yi was not too disappointed. Who asked him to have the mysterious space? If there were treasures that could be transplanted, he would definitely sweep through this place. Only then would this trip be worthwhile. From today onwards, the purple emperor infant fruit tree belonged to Su-yi. Yes, my lord. The monkey-type brute demon beast was stunned for a moment. However, it did not suspect anything and led Su-yi in a certain direction. Not long after, Su-yi saw the fruit tree that was more than 10 feet tall. Su-yi took out a pickaxe from his space bag and immediately started digging. He had prepared this kind of tool long ago, just in case he needed to use it. After a while, Su-yi finished digging. "Go to the periphery and help me keep a lookout. Don't let anyone get close to this place." Su-yi sent the monkey-type brute demon beast away and patrolled around. He wanted to find a place like a cave to plant the sapling first. This mountain stream was very majestic. The mountain peaks on both sides were straight and steep. Su-yi found a small cave in a relatively secluded corner and entered it. He called out the mysterious space and quickly planted the purple emperor infant fruit tree. He even planted the ice soul water coral casually. Now that there was no water in the mysterious space, he could only let the ice soul water coral settle down in the soil. However, with the mysterious space's uniqueness, it would not wither. Bang! Just as Su-yi walked out of the mysterious space, a loud sound came from afar. Following that, he heard the roar of a brute demon beast and the sound of energy whistling. Someone appeared nearby. Su-yi immediately realized that there must be disciples from other sects nearby. The roar of the brute demon beast came from the one that he sent away. "Let's go take a look." Su-yi's figure leaped out, heading in that direction. Soon, a young man with a gloomy face appeared in Su-yi's line of sight. The young man was wearing a pitch-black robe. His face was gloomy and pale, as if he had not seen the sun for decades. At this moment, the young man was waving a trident that emitted a dark green glow. He was fighting with a monkey-type brute demon beast. The young man had the absolute upper hand. However, when Su-yi appeared nearby, the young man immediately stopped attacking. He put away his trident and looked at the young man who suddenly appeared. Dark Een Gate, Sang-ming. Chapter 1059. You can leave now. Su-yi glanced at Sang-ming, then turned his head and spoke to the monkey-type brute demon beast. The brute demon beast was following his orders to keep watch in the vicinity. Su-yi didn't want to see it die in the hands of Sang-ming. Squeak! The monkey-type brute demon beast cheered as if it had been granted amnesty. It dragged its slightly injured body and quickly ran away. Sang-ming didn't make any move as he watched the scene. He completely ignored the brute demon beast's escape. Su-yi looked at him for a while. Seeing that the other party didn't say anything, he felt bored and wanted to leave to continue searching for treasures. Su-yi. At that moment, Sang-ming finally opened his mouth. His voice gave off a sinister feeling. Seeing that Su-yi was about to leave, He brazenly waved the trident in his hand. The sharp edge of the trident shot out and blocked Su Yi's path. "I don't have time to waste with you. Get out of my way." Su Yi's face sank when he saw this and coldly said. He didn't know Sang Ming, and they only met for the first time before entering the secret realm. Su Yi was very displeased that Sang Ming wanted to attack him. "You've become famous recently. Fight with me and let me see if you're qualified to be my stepping stone on the path of cultivation." Sang Ming was expressionless as he spoke indifferently like a dead man. Su Yi almost laughed when he heard this. There were all kinds of people in the world. Sang Ming had only met him for the first time, but he actually treated Su Yi as a stepping stone. Moreover, he even wanted to test him. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have the mood to waste time with this kind of person, Su Yi really wanted to teach him a lesson. "If I remember correctly, the Dark Gate is only a second-rate force. Aren't you being a little too arrogant?" Looking at the trident in front of him, Su Yi stared at Sang Ming and said coldly, "If you want to find stepping stones, there are quite a few of those 3 first-rate powers. For example, Qin Yu Xing, Jing Qiran, Wu Jiyo and Fu Dongxian. If you have the guts, go challenge them. Only after defeating them will you be qualified to challenge me." Su Yi was not a person who was afraid of trouble. The reason why he brought out the most outstanding disciples of the 3 first-rate forces was to humiliate Sang Ming. No matter how strong Sang Ming, the number 1 disciple of the Dark Gate's younger generation, was, he shouldn't be stronger than those people. Su Yi was confident that he could overlook all of his peers in the Chaos Realm's Grand Assembly. "How arrogant! I hope your strength is as good as your mouth," Sang Ming said coldly. "Of course I know I'm not a match for those people. However, it won't be long before I trample them all under my feet. But now, the strongest of the second-rate forces are the most suitable stepping stones for me." You, Su Yi, made a name for yourself in the Alliance Conference and was also the champion of the Central State Sacred Martial Assembly. You must be stronger than Hong Jianxiu and Yin Shangyuan. Such strength is just right for me to sharpen my cultivation. As soon as he finished speaking, Sang Ming's arm shook and the trident in his hand suddenly struck out, aiming for Su Yi's chest. "You can't refuse," Sang Ming said. In a moment of disagreement, he attacked directly. The trident shot out a sharp light and a chilly wind suddenly appeared in the mountain forest, as if it came from the underworld. The sound of ghosts crying and gods howling could be faintly heard, making one's scalp tingle. Under this aura, Su Yi felt his soul jump, but it calmed down in the next moment. "Can't refuse?" Su Yi's heart was filled with coldness. He frowned and a murderous intent rose from his body. He said coldly, "You want me to be your stepping stone? You think you're worthy?" As he spoke, Su Yi's figure suddenly rose into the air and rapidly rose. A hazy radiance lingered around his body, making him look as dazzling as a rising moon in the dark night. 8 Desolate's fury, suppressing the mountains and rivers with 1 foot. These words came out of Su Yi's mouth. His black hair fluttered in the wind as a tyrannical aura shot out from his body, like the wrath of a thunderbolt. Violent ripples appeared in the surrounding space. The space trembled for no reason, and a monstrous aura surged. It was a terrifying scene. Under Su Yi's feet, an energy vortex spun rapidly like a storm, causing the void to explode. Facing the incoming trident, Su Yi valiantly stomped his foot down. Boom! The earth shook and the air roared. Such a stomp completely ignored the sharpness of Sang Ming's trident and directly stepped on the tip of the trident. However, the moment the two came into contact, Sang Ming felt as if he was being crushed by a huge force. It crushed down and passed through the trident in his hand to his body. In an instant, Sang Ming only felt that all of his vitality was suddenly collapsing and leaking out for thousands of miles. He had no power to resist at all and was instantly disintegrated like a dried twig. The originally upright body was instantly oppressed to the point that his spine almost broke. All the bones in his body creaked, and his legs sank deep into the ground. Cracks appeared on the ground, like a spider web that climbed out. The trident in Sang Ming's hand was sent flying. The palm that held the trident was badly mutilated, and half of his body was buried in the soil. Puff! Sang Ming's chest tightened and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face that was as white as a sheet of paper became even paler. However, in his eyes there was extreme horror and shock. Don't provoke me for no reason. If there's a next time, I don't mind crippling you. Su-yi landed on the ground and coldly glanced at Sang Ming. Then, he turned around and walked away without looking back. How can he be so strong? Watching the young man's figure leave, Sang Ming's eyes were filled with endless horror. He never thought that the young man who had just risen to fame would be so powerful. Sang Ming was only one step away from the origin void stage, and could break through at any time. However, he was defeated by Su-yi in a single blow. The gap was too big. In that case, Su-yi could really be on the same level as Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, Wu Jiao and the others. Puff! Sang Ming thought to himself and suddenly spat out another mouthful of blood. His other palm was already badly mutilated. After struggling to climb out of the pit, he barely picked up the trident that was thrown aside and stood up shakily. Sang Ming stood quietly for a long time as he looked in the direction the young man left. Just as he turned around and left, 3 figures rushed out from the nearby forest. The 3 of them, led by a handsome young man, came to Sang Ming's side and observed the hole and other traces on the ground. Sang Ming, did you encounter a powerful savage demon beast, or were you beaten up by the people of the 3 major powers? Although the heroic young man was surprised by the injuries on Sang Ming's body, he still chuckled and said in a neutral tone. In fact, he had judged from the marks on the ground that the one who fought with Sang Ming was undoubtedly a human. Only a few people from the Blue Cloud Hall, 9 Stars Valley, and Blood Sun sect could injure the number 1 person of the younger generation of the Dark Een Gate to such a state. Hong Jianxiu, do you want to fight? Faced with the young man's provocation, Sang Ming stabbed the trident into the ground and brewed a gloomy aura. Although he had just suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Su-yi, Sang Ming was not afraid of Hong Jianxiu at all. Even though he was seriously injured, he still had the confidence to fight. Humph, I don't have time to fight with a lunatic like you. If you want to find a stepping stone, don't come looking for me. Hong Jianxiu snorted coldly and glared at Sang Ming. He then prepared to leave with the other 2 people behind him. But before leaving, Hong Jianxiu turned to Sang Ming and said, by the way, that Bawang sect's Su-yi's cultivation is not weak. I think after entering the secret realm, he will also fall in this area. If you meet him, tell me that he is a disciple of the Big Dipper sect and I will owe you a favor. After saying that, Hong Jianxiu smiled casually, as if he did not particularly care about this matter. For him, entering the secret realm of ominous spirits was not only to obtain the benefits here, but also to kill the young man from the Bawang sect. But for Hong Jianxiu, this was just a matter of convenience. There was only 1 person from the Bawang sect, and a total of 50 people from the Big Dipper sect had entered. It was not easy to kill a young man. If he could find that kid earlier, he could solve this matter earlier and avoid delaying the search for the opportunities in the secret realm. Su-yi. After hearing Hong Jianxiu's words, Sang Ming could not help but raise his eyebrows with a strange expression on his face. Seeing that Hong Jianxiu was about to leave, Sang Ming frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, I have seen Su-yi before. Hong Jianxiu stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Sang Ming. He smiled and said, Where did you see that kid? He should be in that direction. You can go and look for him. Sang Ming glanced in a certain direction and gently raised his chin as he said to Hong Jianxiu. The direction he pointed was the direction Su-yi had left. Haha, I didn't expect to find traces of that kid so quickly. This time, I owe you a small favor. If I have the chance, I will definitely return it to you, Hong Jianxiu said with a laugh. He waved his hand at Sang Ming and then led the other two disciples from the Big Dipper sect in the direction indicated by Sang Ming. Su Yi from the Bawang sect was already known by the entire Chaos region. He had made a name for himself in the central region, and even the sacred mountain had suffered a great loss at his hands. However, Hong Jianxiu did not care about this. Since he dared to touch the people from the Gimdeo sect in the Chaos region, it was the same as provoking the Big Dipper sect. Naturally, he had to kill him. Phew! After watching Hong Jianxiu and the other two disappear, Sang Ming stood in the same place for a while. He slightly adjusted his breathing and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. Chapter 1060. Su Yi shuttled through the forest, constantly searching for treasures such as spiritual herbs. As time passed, he finally met more people on the second day. In addition to the disciples of the sects whom he was not familiar with, there were two familiar faces. They were Yu Wenshuan from Xianjian sect and Lin Bingyao from Liuhe sect. The others he met were all outstanding talents from their respective sections. None of them were weak. It seems that the area to enter the secret realm of ominous spirits is distributed according to cultivation level. Su Yi quickly discovered this point and knew that most of the people in the vicinity were the strongest disciples of some sections. From Shi Susu to Sang Ming, Yu Wenshuan, and Lin Bingyao, Sang Ming. However, as the crowd moved, this distribution would gradually be broken. The further they went, the more people with different strengths would come into contact with each other. The purpose of the alliance was probably for the sake of the disciples who were not too strong. It was to prevent all the opportunities along the way from falling into the hands of the strong and causing many people to return empty-handed. Brother Su Yi, let's travel together. What do you think? Lin Bingyao, who was wearing a water-patterned silk dress, came to Su Yi's side and asked. She had met Yu Wenshuan earlier and had traveled together for some time. Forget about traveling together. We can only find more opportunities if we split up. However, I have some questions that I would like to ask you. Su Yi nodded. There were still some things that he did not know about the secret realm of ominous spirit. Now that he had met these two people, he could learn more about it. We are now in the periphery of the secret realm of ominous spirit. Everyone needs to gather at the center. The Nirvana Dragon platform is there. It is the final test and also the exit. The 10 strongest people in the alliance will be determined there and obtain great opportunities. In addition, there are other benefits in the secret realm of ominous spirit. In fact, this place has been explored by the alliance for many years. However, until today we can still occasionally find some extraordinary benefits. If we are lucky enough, we may be able to obtain an extraordinary opportunity. It may even be more valuable than the Nirvana Dragon platform. While the three of them traveled together, Su Yi also asked the two of them some questions about this secret realm. Yu Wenshuan and Lin Bingyao told Su Yi everything they knew. 4 disciples of third-rate forces like them, there was basically no hope for them to compete for the Nirvana Dragon platform, but in the process of exploring secret realms, they would generally be able to obtain considerable benefit. And this kind of benefit was very difficult for them to obtain in the outside world. If that's the case, we should really explore it properly. Su Yi nodded, then looked at the two of them and asked, Then how do I determine where the center is? This was a problem that Su Yi was very concerned about. If he didn't know this, he would be like a headless fly in the vast spirit's secret realm. If he couldn't reach the Nirvana Dragon platform and the exit within 9 days, he would be sealed in this secret realm. We don't know either. Hearing Su Yi's question, Lin Bingyao smiled bitterly and said, But it's not difficult to determine. There are many savage beasts here. As long as we can subdue 1 or 2 of them, it'll be easy to find the way. Su Yi nodded again. This was also a method that he had thought of before. Well, what's going on over there? Just as the three of them were chatting, Su-yi was suddenly startled. He saw many people gathering in the distance. They were hurrying on with their journey, and at the same time, they were whispering to each other. Something unusual must have happened. Brother Su-yi, let's go and take a look. What do you think? Yuan looked at Su-yi and said. Let's go and ask. Su-yi nodded. Of course, he had to join in the fun. As they spoke, the three of them rushed in the direction of the crowd. Soon, 5 figures appeared in front of them. Su-yi looked around and saw the clothes on these people. They were from 2 third-rate forces. 3 from the Absolute Heaven sect and 2 from the Wild Blade sect. They were not weak. When Su-yi, Yuan, and Lin Bingyao landed in front of them, the 5 of them were stunned. Especially when they saw the young man in the lead, their eyes were filled with fear. Where are you guys going in such a hurry? Su-yi did not beat around the bush and asked directly. He observed for a moment and found that the 5 of them were not very strong. They were basically at the 5th or 6th level of Yuanzhen stage. They should not be in this area. The 5 of them suddenly stammered. They did not want to answer, but they did not dare to not answer. This made Su-yi raise his eyebrows. He looked at them coldly and said, Do you want me to use some tricks to make you say it? This was the Chaos region. Strength was everything. When Su-yi saw the 5 of them, he knew that there was a big problem. Lord, among the 5 of them, a person with a black mole on his face put on a bitter face and said to Su-yi, We just received a message from the experts in our sect. They said there is, the person spoke halfway and stuttered again. Su-yi furrowed his brows and snorted coldly. The 5 of them were so scared that their legs went soft. They were scared out of their wits by the young man's snort. The memory of Su-yi's power on the arena that day was still fresh in their minds. They would never forget it for the rest of their lives. Not to mention the disciples, even the strongest of the younger generation in their respective sects would not be a match for this young man, Su-yi. The experts in our sect sent a message saying that a treasure has appeared. They want us to gather and try to seize it. Soon, another person's body trembled, but he tried to speak clearly. Hearing the words, treasure, Su-yi's eyes suddenly lit up. He was overjoyed. Wherever there were benefits, Su-yi would be there. Since he had encountered such a thing, how could he miss it? Lead the way. I also want to see what kind of treasure it is. Don't worry, as long as you don't make an enemy of me, I won't touch you, Su-yi said with a wave of his sleeve. Hearing him say this, the 5 people from the Extreme Heaven sect and the Wild Blade sect breathed a sigh of relief. However, they still maintained extreme caution, afraid that they would accidentally offend this young man from the Bawang sect. Under the lead of the 5 people, Su-yi, Lin Bingyao, and Yuan continued to walk in the secret territory. It actually made the people of 2 sects gather. What kind of treasure has appeared? As they advanced, Yuan murmured to himself. It's definitely not simple. Otherwise, even the strongest of the Extreme Heaven sect and the Wild Blade sect would not have so easily gathered the scattered disciples so early, Lin Bingyao said after thinking for a while. At the side, Su-yi nodded slightly, agreeing with Lin Bingyao's words. Before entering the secret territory, every disciple of the major forces would carry a communication item with them. Within a certain range, they could communicate with each other. However, this item would generally not be used unless there was danger and needed to be rescued. Otherwise, when a treasure was discovered, it would be difficult to obtain it due to insufficient manpower. Otherwise, the dozens of disciples would of course all scatter in order to obtain more benefit. The disciples of the 2 sects led the way in front, while Su-yi and the other 2 followed closely. In order to speed up their journey, Su-yi found a bird-type savage beast along the way. After subduing it, the 8 of them rode on it together. Easily taming a savage beast of the demon true realm, Su-yi's means shocked the few of them, but no one said anything. After 2 hours, the group arrived at a large mountain. When they climbed to the top of the mountain, Su Yi and the others were surprised to find that there were actually some broken ruins here. There seems to be a small mountain gate here, but it's already in ruins. All the buildings have collapsed. Looking around, Lin Bingyao whispered softly at the same time. The surrounding walls were broken and dilapidated. Weeds and trees grew in the cracks of the stones everywhere. Very few of the original building walls had been completely preserved. However, they could vaguely see the general situation of this place in the past. It was not particularly glorious. At most, it was the standard of a third or fourth-rate force. Is this the place where the treasure is? Su Yi's eyes were burning as he looked around, trying to find some traces. He found that there were some other mountains in the surroundings. There were also some buildings on them, but they looked much smaller than the place they were at now. Obviously, this was the main mountain. These broken buildings looked very old, probably dating back to a very long time ago. It was unknown whether this place collapsed because of fierce battles or because of the decay of time. My lord, the people of our sect have already gone to another mountain. The Absolute Heaven sect disciple with a black mole on his face carefully moved in front of Su Yi and said in a trembling voice. Su Yi nodded. There was no need for this person to remind him. He had already noticed this. On the other mountain peaks, there were many figures shuttling in and out of the dilapidated buildings, as if they were looking for something. Su Yi saw all of this. Let's go and ask about the situation. Su Yi no longer cared about the 5 people. He immediately rode on the barbarian beast with Yu Wenxuan and Lin Bingyao and headed towards a mountain peak not far away. Su, this young man gives off too much pressure. How can he have such a strong aura? When Su Yi and the other 2 left, the young man with a black mole relaxed. The sweat on his forehead began to flow down, and he couldn't wipe it in time. The young man from the Bawang sect was too terrifying. He couldn't even think of resisting. That invisible aura was not something an ordinary person could have. We brought him here. Will senior brother blame us? A Wild Blade sect disciple swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said worriedly. Chapter 1061. Once this matter was known by their sect, their elders might blame them. Don't worry, the treasure belongs to those who are fated to get it. No one can force it. Su Yi is very strong, but the treasure might not belong to him. Another disciple from the Wild Blade sect comforted his companion and himself at the same time. They turned their gazes and saw that the bird-type savage beast had already landed on a mountain peak not far away with 3 people on its back. By the time Su Yi found the dilapidated mountain gate under the guidance of the people from the 2 sects, Hong Jianxiu had already gathered 7 or 8 Big Dipper sect disciples in the direction he came from, and they were traveling together. They soon noticed that the people from the Wild Blade sect and the Extreme Heaven sect were leaving in a hurry. Relying on their absolute strength, they caught a few people and questioned them. Hong Jianxiu also quickly learned about the appearance of the treasure. Let's not care about Su Yi for now. Let's go and see what the treasure is first. No matter what it is, our Big Dipper sect must get it. Hong Jianxiu's handsome face was filled with confidence. Something that could make the disciples of the 2 sects go all out to search for it must not be something simple. Their Big Dipper sect was a second-rate force. The Extreme Heaven sect and the Wild Blade sect were third-rate forces, so it was impossible for them to get the treasure. Even if those people really got it first, they would have to obediently spit it out when the time came. With this thought in mind, Hong Jianxiu and the others hurried on. However, they weren't like Su Yi, who could easily catch a flying beast as a mount. Thus, their speed was much slower and they had to cross over mountains and valleys. Lei Quan, what are you looking for here? Su Yi, Yu Wenxuan, and Lin Bingyao landed on a mountain peak. After jumping off the back of the savage beast, Yu Wenxuan asked a young man in purple clothes. Yu Wenxuan, Lin Bingyao, Su Yi seeing the 3 people who suddenly appeared, the young man in purple clothes was stunned at first. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He was the eldest disciple of the extreme heaven sect and was the strongest. The people in the sect came here to find the treasure because of his message. Did you find some treasure here? Looking at you guys, it seems like it's going to be hard to find. Why don't we work together? Lin Bingyao looked at the purple-clothed man, Lei Quan, and said with a smile. Her beautiful eyes swept past her surroundings. At this moment, there were several disciples of the heaven-severing sect roaming around the ruins, carefully searching for something. I have indeed found some traces of something. However, it is very difficult to capture it. That is why I have gathered all the disciples here. However, I believe it will be very difficult to find it in a short period of time. Hearing Yu Wenxuan and Lin Bingyao's words, Lei Quan shook his head and said, "Forget about us joining hands. Since the two of you have come, then go your separate ways. As for who the treasure ends up in, it will all depend on your own luck." After saying that, he looked away and took one last deep look at Sui. Then, he leaped away and continued to search for something. Sui couldn't help but raise his eyebrows at the young man's behavior. This person was very open-minded and seemed to be able to get over it. Even if the treasure ended up in the hands of others, he did not care too much about it. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Sui touched his chin and thought to himself. It seems that the treasure they are looking for is in the vicinity. This mountain is being searched by the heaven-severing sect, and the people on the other mountain are all disciples of the Wild Blade sect. Yu Wenxuan's eyes were sharp as he discovered the situation on the other mountain. There were also several figures appearing and disappearing from time to time, passing through the collapsed mountain gate. These two parties are together, but they are searching separately. This can only mean that the treasure is not in a fixed place. I'm getting more and more curious. What kind of thing is it? Could it grow legs and run on its own? Lin Bingyao said softly. Why don't we also split up? This way our chances will be greater. Just like what Lei Quan said, in the end it all depends on who gets it. Sui thought for a while, and said to Yu Wenxuan and Lin Bingyao beside him. Alright. The two nodded. Then, Sui did not delay any longer. His figure leaped out and began to search everywhere. Yu Wenxuan and Lin Bingyao also split up and went to different places. A treasure that can run, what kind of thing is it? As Sui walked through the dilapidated buildings, he was also thinking about this question. Things that could move freely, other than humans and savage beasts, were either items with spirituality or high-grade spiritual herbs like the blood jade spirit ginseng. Lei Quan from the heaven-severing sect did not explain in detail, but Sui felt that the latter was more likely. Under his search, Sui also discovered that there were many traces of human activity in these dilapidated buildings. Moreover, they were not left behind recently. It was obvious that the experts of the Alliance had searched here before. If there were any good things, they would have been plundered clean. After searching for 4 hours, Sui found nothing. Looking at the other places, he saw that everyone was also searching carefully. However, each of them had a hint of impatience. Obviously, no one had any news. The news should be true, but the concealment method of the treasure is too strong. It's hard to find traces of it. Sui furrowed his brows as he thought to himself. If they could not confirm the authenticity of the news, the heaven-severing sect and the Wild Blades sect would not have gathered all their disciples here and ignored the other benefits. However, if he continued to search like this, he did not know when he would find the treasure. Let's search for a while more. If there's no movement, we'll leave first. Sui pondered for a while and made the final decision. He did not want to continue wasting time here. He pulled himself together and circled around the mountain peak. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed past the front corner and quickly drilled into a damaged hall, disappearing without a trace. Sui's expression brightened as joy appeared on his face. Could it be? Without a second thought, he also rushed into the dilapidated hall. The light just now was not big. It was only the size of 2 fists and emitted a misty light. Su-yi did not see its specific appearance clearly, but the rough outline was actually a small savage beast. It's very likely that it's the treasure they're looking for. Su-yi was pleasantly surprised. However, he was not sure what kind of treasure it was for those young disciples to value it so much. This question could only be answered after Su-yi had a clear look at the person's face. Where did it run to? Beams of light shone into the dark and dilapidated hall, making it possible to see a little bit of the place. Su-yi restrained all his aura and floated in the void a foot above the ground without making any sound. After he entered the hall quietly, he looked around. Suddenly, a small head popped out from a corner. It was fluffy like a kitten and emitted a misty light. After seeing Su-yi, the pair of watery eyes on the little head were startled and quickly shrank back into the corner. That's Su-yi was stunned. Just now, he finally saw the light figure clearly. It really was a small beast, with a strong and dignified appearance. It was very strange. It doesn't look like a savage beast, but it has the aura of a demon. Through that glimpse and the remnant aura, Su-yi determined that the dignified creature was not a real savage beast. What was strange was that it had the aura of a demon. This was quite contradictory. Could it be, all of a sudden, Su-yi seemed to have thought of something, and his entire body shook violently. Weapon spirit. It's very likely that it's a weapon spirit. I wonder what kind of weapon or treasure it came from. Su-yi knew that weapons were divided into Yuan weapon, dark weapon, spiritual weapon, Tao weapon, magic weapon, holy weapon, and divine weapon. Most weapons did not have weapon spirit. Only when the weapon reached an extremely high level would it have the chance to give birth to a weapon spirit. Other than that, it was also possible to capture a powerful soul and place it into a weapon to form a weapon spirit. No matter which method the artifact spirit was created, there was a common premise, and that was that the artifact spirit had to be powerful enough. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to accommodate a spirit, even if it wasn't too powerful. In other words, a weapon with a weapon spirit was definitely a rare treasure. No wonder it attracted the attention of the Wild Blade sect and the Absolute Heaven sect. Su-yi's heart was filled with joy. If a powerful magic weapon or even a holy weapon could really appear in this secret realm, then this trip would not have been in vain. Seeing the little beast spirit retract its head, Su-yi would not let it go so easily. Don't run, quickly bring me to your body. Su-yi was excited and chased after it. However, the little beast was too agile and its speed was extremely fast. In a short time, it disappeared into a small hole. Su-yi did not even have time to see its other parts clearly. I can't let it run away. Su-yi struck out a palm and blasted a big hole in the damaged wall of the main hall. He quickly followed. However, the little beast's movements were too fast. Its body turned into an afterimage, and as it moved, it was like a streak of lightning. With Su-yi's cultivation, coupled with the wind attribute Yuan Qi and the Fuyao 100 transformation steps, he could not catch up. In just the blink of an eye, the little beast had swept dozens of feet away. Moreover, it was extremely agile. It only took corners and small holes to escape, making Su-yi, who was following behind, very anxious. I can't care so much. Since he had already seen the little beast spirit, Su-yi was definitely not willing to let it go. Every time the little beast turned into a corner, Su-yi would wave a palm of light. Under the powerful burst of power, the broken walls and hard stones in front of him were all smashed. Chapter 1062. However, this caused a huge commotion on the mountain peak, which instantly attracted the attention of other places. It's Su-yi from the Bawang sect. I didn't expect him to be here too. Some people had not noticed Su-yi's existence until now, and when they saw him appear and make such a big commotion, they could not help but be stunned. What is he doing? Soon, some people were surprised. Su Yi's actions were too strange. He smashed the obstacles in front of him again and again, as if he was chasing something. Look in front of him. Is that the little beast we're looking for? A disciple from the violent saber sect exclaimed and pointed at a place not far from Su Yi. There was no need for him to remind them. In fact, many people saw a light figure leaping up from the messy rock. It shuttled back and forth like lightning, passing by in an instant and disappearing again. The first person who found this thing described the characteristics of the treasure to the later people. It was in the shape of a small beast, and it was extremely fast and agile. It was very difficult to catch, and it was very similar to the light figure they saw just now. Yes, that's it. A disciple shouted excitedly. Su Yi found it and is chasing after it. Do we still have a chance? However, when they saw the young man's figure behind the light figure, many people suddenly felt guilty and did not move forward. Many people had witnessed Su Yi's strength with their own eyes. It could be said that among all the disciples of the third-rate forces, no one was his opponent. Even if dozens of people joined forces, they would not be able to threaten him at all. At this time, he was chasing the little beast, and the others were a little hesitant and did not dare to go forward. Don't run, I'll give you something delicious to eat. Su Yi shouted as he chased after the little beast. Anyway, at this time, he had attracted the attention of others, so there was no need to worry anymore. However, the little beast was too agile and its speed was very fast. When he passed through the dilapidated wall, he ran into the dense forest with a swoosh and walked all the way down the mountain. Forget it, the treasure has not fallen into his hands yet. No matter who it is, we still have a chance. Let's follow it quickly. But soon, someone gritted his teeth and made up his mind. After saying this, he rushed out and headed in the direction of Su Yi. When the others saw this, they emboldened themselves and followed after him. Brother Su Yi found the trace of the treasure. On another mountain peak, Yuan Xuan and Lin Bingyao also discovered this scene and chased after it. In just a short while, the originally lively mountain peaks were quickly emptied of people. Not even a shadow could be found. Not long after, two more groups of people arrived. The first to arrive was a woman. Her appearance was peerless and graceful. She stepped on the air and arrived. It was Sure Susu of the Blue Cloud Hall. She stared in the air for a moment before choosing a direction to fly towards. It was the direction that Su Yi and the others were heading towards. Not long after Sure Susu left, Hong Jianxiu and the other Heavenly Dipper sect disciples arrived with the Heaven-Severing sect and Heavenly Dipper sect disciples in custody. These people were only at the Yuan Zhen stage, and it was difficult for them to walk in the air for long periods of time. All of them had to travel on the ground, and only when they encountered insurmountable obstacles would they transform their Yuan Qi and travel in the air. You dare to lie? After arriving at the mountain peak, a Heaven's Sect's disciple beside Hong Jianxiu suddenly glared at the Heaven's Sect and Wild Blade Sect's disciples. At this time, there was no one on the mountain peak, which made the Heaven's Sect's disciples feel like they had been deceived. My lord, we dare not. A 25-year-old Wild Blade Sect's disciple suddenly cried and said in fear, "What we said is true. I'm afraid that Big Brother and the others have already left." The other two sects' disciples heard this and nodded like chickens pecking at rice. I don't think they dare. Hong Jianxiu's face was expressionless. He turned his head and said indifferently, "Quickly contact your people and ask where they went." Under his order, the two sects' disciples did not dare to disobey and immediately began to contact others. After a while, there was a sound in their communication and a message was sent. Su Yi. When he heard that Su Yi was leading the group to chase after the treasure, Hong Jianxiu's eyebrows suddenly raised, like two swords that had come alive. He waved his sleeves and said in a deep voice, "Quickly chase." The group hurriedly chased after the treasure. On the other side, Su Yi was chasing after the little beast. They had already climbed over many mountains and passed through a long stretch of dense forest. The speed of this man and beast was so fast that they had already left the others in the dust. Damn it, it can run! Sui could not help but feel a little tired. Using 120% of his strength to chase after the little beast, his breathing began to become rapid. Such a huge piece of news was not much different from an all-out battle. Even so, he still could not catch up with the little beast. He did not know how such a small thing could have such powerful legs. However, Sui was finally able to get a good look at the little beast's appearance. It was a very strange beast. It had a strong head and a tiger's brain, but it had a dragon-like tail. Looking closely, it was a bit like a snake's tail. In addition, it carried a turtle shell on its back, which was engraved with polygonal patterns. 4 small claws stretched out from under the turtle shell. It was not very clear, but there was a cloud of mist coming from under the claws. Sui felt that it was very likely that it was 4 dragon claws. Not only that, sometimes when Sui approached the little beast at full speed, it could actually stretch out 2 wings from under the turtle shell. Under the rapid flapping, it could pass through the undulating forest as if it were walking on flat ground. 4 spirits coexisting in one body, what kind of strange creature is this? Sui chased after the little beast and muttered to himself. The azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise were the 4 divine beasts, collectively known as the 4 spirit. The little beast in front of him actually had some of the characteristics of these 4 spirits at the same time. Dragon claws, tiger head, sparrow wings, and turtle shell. Sui had never seen such a strange creature before. Perhaps only the weapon spirit born from some powerful tool would have such a strange appearance. Little guy, don't run, I have delicious food here. Sui shouted from behind, feeling somewhat anxious. The little beast did not seem to be tired at all, which made Sui very distressed. If it ran like this, he would not be able to catch up even if he tired himself to death. In Sui's shouting, the little beast did not look back. Instead, it ran even more happily. I really do have delicious food here. Sui's teeth were itching. He had no idea how to lure the little beast, or could it be that he could not lure it at all and could only forcibly suppress it? If that was the case, Sui felt that he should just give up. If he could not even catch up, how could he suppress it? Gulp, Sui took out a bottle of chi-replenishing pills from his interspatial bag and swallowed 5 or 6 pills in one gulp. However, the speed of this replenishment was somewhat slow and could not keep up with his consumption. After a while, Sui simply took out a bottle of spiritual liquid and took a sip. Under the circulation of the cultivation method in his body, it turned into abundant primordial chi, causing the great void divine sea to be filled again. However, at this moment, the little beast that was running quickly in front suddenly looked back and seemed to be sniffing. When Sui put the cork back on the bottle, it started running again. This scene was caught by Sui, who was staring at it at all times. It really wants to eat delicious food? Sui was inexplicably surprised. A weapon spirit was actually interested in the spiritual liquid. This was a rare thing. Little guy, don't run, I'll give you the spiritual liquid here. Sui was overjoyed. He did not care why and immediately pulled out the cork, causing the rich smell of the spiritual liquid to overflow. It had to be said that the spiritual liquid produced by the mysterious space was really extraordinary. When it was placed in the outside world, in just an instant, it caused the area within a radius of hundreds of feet to be filled with a refreshing feeling. The spiritual chi seemed to have become many times denser. Following this situation, the little beast in front really slowed down. It actually slowly stopped and looked back at Sui. It even stuck out its tongue and licked its lip. Little guy, be good, I won't hurt you. I'll give you all the spiritual liquid here. If it's not enough, I have more. Sui's mouth was almost reaching his ears. He laughed like a fool. He finally found a way to deal with this little beast. Sui also stopped, afraid that he would scare the little beast away again. Since the little beast liked the taste of the spiritual liquid, it could be said that the heavens were really on Suyi's side. After all, in the whole world, he was probably the only one who had this item. Didn't that mean that among all the people who had entered the secret realm of ominous spirits, only Sui had the chance to tame this little beast and obtain the unknown powerful item? At the thought of this, Sui was even more overjoyed. "Come with me, okay?" Sui held up the spiritual liquid bottle that he had just sipped and gently shook it twice, causing the rich smell to become stronger. However, the little beast did not walk over. Instead, it showed a somewhat human-like look of disdain. "What the f***ck, are you looking down on me?" Sui was stunned. Could it be that, because he had drunk this bottle of spirit liquid, this little beast was disgusted by this bottle of spirit liquid? As expected, just as he opened another bottle of spiritual liquid, the little beast's eyes shone brightly. "Come with me, this spiritual liquid is yours." Sui showed 2 rows of big white teeth and said with a smile. However, although the little beast looked very eager, it still did not go forward. Sui was helpless. He looked around and found a cave not far away. The entrance of the cave was not too big. Suddenly, Suyi's eyes lit up and a plan came to his mind. "It's okay if you don't come with me. This bottle of spiritual liquid is for you. We should be friends." Suyi's lips curled into a smile as he uttered words that could only fool a 3-year-old child. As he spoke, he slowly moved towards the small cave. Chapter 1063. The spiritual liquid is yours. Let's be friends. Sui blurted out some nonsense as he ran away, leaving the area to the little beast. He could tell that the little beast was very cautious and would not let anyone get close to it. Now that it was tempted by the spiritual liquid, this was a rare opportunity for Sui. Therefore, Sui planned to lure it into the cave and find a chance to capture it. Once he succeeded, he would be rich. He might even get another artifact, or even a divine artifact. By then, a bottle of spiritual liquid would be nothing. Sui thought as a matter of course. With this thought, he quickly retreated into the distance. Under the little beast's gaze, he instantly dashed hundreds of feet away until their vision was blocked by the mountain range and they could not see each other clearly. "You must take the bait." Sui found a place to stop. He suppressed all the chi in his body to the lowest and tiptoed back the way he came. After a while, he crouched behind a huge rock and peeked out to look at where the little beast was. After Sui disappeared, the little beast still stood in the same spot for a long time. However, that pair of quick-witted tiger eyes looked around for a while, occasionally glancing at the cave, licking its lips and swallowing its saliva. After thinking for a long time, the little beast still couldn't resist the tempting aura of the spiritual liquid. After confirming that there was no movement in the surroundings, it began to slowly walk toward the cave. It looked back 3 times with every step, looking very cautious. What it did not know was that all its movements had been seen by the human just now. "I'm halfway there." Sui was overjoyed. Seeing that this step of his plan had succeeded, he was very excited. That was an artifact spirit. If he captured it, who knew what kind of domineering artifact he would get? This made Sui look forward to it. "Go into the cave. Go in quickly." Looking at the little beast walking slowly, Suyi's heart was filled with anxiety, and he kept shouting silently. At the same time, the chi in his body was also preparing to sneak over at any time and then pounce to capture the little beast. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. The little beast walked slowly, looking back from time to time. But soon, it reached the entrance of the cave and slowly walked in. Sui placed the small bottle of spiritual liquid in the middle of the cave to let the little beast enter a deeper position so that it would be easier for him to make his move. At this time, the little beast had already walked close to the spiritual liquid. Su Yi's eyes, and he slowly moved his body, preparing to sneak over. He had already thought of the plan. When the little beast started to drink the spiritual liquid in the bottle, it would be the best time for him to make his move. As Su sneaking, the little beast had already lifted the spiritual liquid bottle of the spiritual liquid of the spiritual liquid. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly came from not far behind him, startling him. "Thief, let's see where you can run to." When this voice appeared, Su Yi shouted in his heart. It was actually that crazy woman who had found him. This made him feel that something was wrong. How could he still care about Susu's appearance? Su Yi immediately rushed towards the cave. He only wanted to catch the little beast as soon as possible. But it was too late. When Susu's voice resounded, the little beast in the cave was shocked. It did not even care about drinking the spiritual liquid. It threw the bottle down and ran away. When Su Yi rushed to the cave entrance, the little beast jumped out in front of him. With its 4 claws and wings, its speed was extremely fast. With a whoosh, it rushed into the bushes at the side. Just as Su Yi was about to continue chasing, a warning sign came from behind him. A sword light pierced through the air and whistled over with a sharp chi. Gulp, Su Yi did not dare to be negligent. He rolled on the ground and turned into a rolling gourd. He dodged Susu's attack. However, with this delay, he pushed open the bushes to take a look. There was not even a trace of the little beast. "I'll get your uncle, 4th uncle, and grandma," Su Yi cursed. There were 100,000 alpacas galloping in his heart. Seeing that he was about to succeed, he actually let the little beast run away. This made his heart collapse. "You crazy woman. I haven't settled the score for the last time. Now you're here to trick me again. Do you really think I don't have a temper? Do you believe that I won't push you into the cave and ruthlessly rub it?" Su Yi's face became ferocious. His eyes were spewing flames of anger. He roared at the beautiful figure in the air. He was extremely distressed. He had spent a bottle of spiritual liquid, but he did not catch the little beast. "You thief, I'm going to kill you." Hearing Su Yi's frivolous words, Susu's chest rose and fell violently. It was a spectacular sight. Her cheeks were boiling hot. What happened in the cave a long time ago seemed to come back to her, making her feel ashamed and resentful. Her hatred for the young man could not help but grow even stronger. After a scream, Susu raised her sword and charged straight at Su Yi. Everything that happened just now was naturally seen by her eyes. That little beast also surprised her. But at this time, when she heard Su Yi's words, Susu suddenly felt endless resentment. How could she care about the artifact spirit? She only wanted to cut that lecher into 18 pieces with her sword. Swish, a sword light swept out like a rainbow across the sky, crossing the sky and slashing straight at Su Yi. "If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know why the flowers are so red." Facing such a scene, Su Yi was also angry. The artifact's spirit little beast escaped, which made him instantly hold back a bellyful of anger. At this time, Susu raised her sword and attacked again. Su Yi did not even think about it and met it head-on. Unknowingly, he was already holding a large saber in his hand and suddenly slashed out. Furious Dragon Slash. With a swoosh, the saber aura rose to the sky like a bolt of lightning, fiercely colliding with the sword light. Boom, the two energies collided, causing a huge tremor. The void trembled, the forest shook, and stones rolled down. A terrifying energy storm swept out, cutting many of the trees in the surroundings into pieces. Pieces of rocks were thrown into the air, and rubble pierced through the air. Under this scene, the two figures flew out in opposite directions, each retreating a distance of several hundred feet. However, after Susu stabilized her body, her slender waist twisted again, and once again charged at Su Yi. Today, I'm going to slap your ass into 18 pieces and let you see what it means to have a peach blossom all over the ground." Sui roared furiously, raising his saber to meet it. A terrifying collision instantly erupted between the two. Between the two Origin Void stage cultivators, layers of sword light and saber light overlapped, frantically sweeping out. The nearby trees and some mountain rocks were shattered one after another under such a terrifying collision, from the whole into fragments, and then from the fragments into fine powder. For a time, smoke and dust covered the sky, covering the two figures inside. One had to admit that Sure Susu's strength was very strong. Under Su Yi's ferocious offensive, she actually did not lose for a while. Those ferocious saber lights were all resolved by her. However, in a short period of time, she also changed from the initiating attacker at the very beginning to the passive side being beaten. However, at this time, Su Yi had just exerted his strength. 8 Desolate's fury, violent shadow shatters 9 nether. Such a loud shout came out of Su Yi's mouth. But only to see Su Yi kick out both feet, blasting towards Sure Susu's sword that followed up. The footprints were bright and as fast as lightning. In an instant it was as if endless footprints were kicked out, the light gathered, and exploded like a small sun. This series of actions was done in one breath, as fast as lightning, and as powerful as thunder. A terrifying aura spread out, incomparably domineering, majestic, and destructive. Such a scene also caused Sure Susu's pair of clear and beautiful eyes to surge with a strange color. The sword light in her hand rose again, and could not help but become more domineering and fierce, wanting to block Su Yi's attack. Bang, 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 the footprints and the sword light collided, and the void rumbled. Gorgeous energy light and endless wind blades surged out, and the pressure was impressive. The ground below collapsed, and the void trembled, as if it had suffered the most terrifying destruction. Puff, under Sure Susu's horrified gaze, the sword light that she shot out was instantly extinguished by the footprints that filled the sky, like a candle flame being trampled down. Then, the footprints landed on her chest, and her body was directly kicked out, and a mouthful of bright red blood spurted out from her red lips. Bang! Her body finally smashed into the rocky ground, causing a huge tremor, and the earth trembled. "You crazy woman!" After Su Yi finished his move, he instantly arrived in front of Sure Susu with 8 steps, overtaking Cicada. "Thief!" Sure Susu gritted her teeth and forced herself to slash out with her sword, but Su Yi directly hit her with his palm, and the long sword was sent flying, nailing into the distant mountain rocks, not even reaching the sword hilt. "Thief, thief! Why don't you tell me why I'm a thief?" Su Yi blocked Sure Susu's palm once again, and then directly grabbed her collar and scolded her. His heart was filled with anger. Ever since this crazy woman had seen him before, she had been acting like a thief to no end. That's right, in order to take revenge on this woman, Su Yi once stripped her naked and put her in a cave, and also did some tricks to make her mistakenly think that she had lost her chastity. But after such a long time, if she was not a fool, it should not be difficult for her to find out that he was still a virgin. How did he become a thief? The most important thing was that he had found traces of the artifact Spirit Beast today. He had used a bottle of spirit liquid to lure it into the cave. Just as he was about to catch it, who would have thought that this woman would suddenly appear and scare the artifact Spirit Beast away? Su Yi was annoyed. From the beginning, it was completely this woman who tricked him, and later, she repaid his kindness with ingratitude. Chapter 1064. Let me go. Her collar was grabbed by Su Yi's hand. Sure Susu struggled, and her dress was torn apart. She waved her hand. Even in such a situation, she still wanted to attack Su Yi. "You said I'm a bad person," Su Yi sneered and quickly placed a few restrictive spells on Sure Susu's body, sealing her meridians, Dantian and Sea of Qi. "Since you've always treated me as a thief, Then I'll do something a thief should do today. Su Yi's voice began to sound ferocious. He really wanted to slap this crazy woman to death. Seeing that he was about to subdue her, Su Yi felt that he had to do something to be worthy of his bottle of spiritual liquid and the title Sure Susu gave him. Let me go. What are you doing? I'll never let you go. Upon hearing Su Yi's words, Sure Susu's entire body trembled in shock. Only now did she realize that she had been captured by Su Yi. Good. Very good. Su Yi sneered and said, I'd like to see how you won't let me go. As soon as his voice fell, his palm suddenly exerted force. With a chi-la sound, the torn dress in his hand was torn apart. Sure Susu let out an ear-piercing scream, piercing through gold and splitting stone. Su Yi's head was about to explode. She wanted to struggle, but her body's chi was completely sealed. There was no room for resistance. I'll let you see what a real thief is. Su Yi's throat was dry, but he was still angry at this time. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore. His two hands grabbed down heavily. The touch from his fingertips made Su Yi's lower abdomen burn. Sure Susu screamed even louder and began to cry. She didn't expect this guy to be so bold and dare to do this to her. Hearing Sure Susu's screams, Su Yi actually felt an inexplicable sense of excitement. He became even more impolite and directly took advantage of her. Not only that, he even slapped her perfectly round and perky buttock. Puh! A crisp sound rang out, accompanied by another scream from Sure Susu. Not far away, rocks exploded. A bright red handprint appeared on her snow-white skin. I'll let you call me a thief. Su Yi's voice was deep as he slapped her once more, causing her delicate skin to tremble. I told you not to let me go. Pa! Su Yi opened his mouth again and slammed his palm down again. You tricked me. Pa! How dare you bite the hand that feeds you? Pa! I'll let you steal my treasure. Pa! I told you to chop anyone you see with your sword. Pa! Every time Su Yi mentioned Sure Susu's crime, it would be accompanied by a crisp voice and Sure Susu's screams. But in the end, this scream slowly turned into a sobbing tone. After a while, the place where Su Yi's palm landed was already completely red, which was in stark contrast to the snow-white and sparkling skin. What are you crying for? If you continue to cry, believe it or not, I'll really. Hearing Sure Susu's cries, Su Yi felt a headache coming on. He turned her over, glared at her, and said fiercely. Needless to say, this threat was really effective. Sure Susu, who was originally crying loudly, began to sob softly. She sniffled and looked extremely aggrieved. Let's see if you dare to provoke me again. Su Yi stared at Sure Susu and said. The anger in his heart also slowly subsided. At this time, he regained his calm and rationality, and couldn't help but realize that he was indeed a little too angry just now. However, now that he had calmed down and looked at the woman in front of him, he felt a burst of dryness in his mouth. Gulp! Su Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty and tried to calm himself down. He solemnly warned himself not to make any mistakes here. He took out a clean set of clothes from his interspatial bag and covered Sure Susu's body. Then, he carried her by the waist and placed her in a cave not far away. After the battle just now, the cave was slightly damaged, but it wasn't particularly serious, so it could be used as a shelter. The old people always say that you learn from your mistakes. Remember not to provoke me again next time, or I won't be polite. Su Yi leaned Sure Susu against the wall of the cave and looked at her tear-stained face. He felt his scalp tingle and seemed to be at a loss. I'm leaving. You're on your own. After loosening the restriction on her body, Su Yi didn't think much and directly walked out of the cave. A woman who cried her heart out would always touch a certain softness in a man's heart. Su Yi felt that he had taken his revenge and taught Sure Susu a lesson. As long as Sure Susu didn't bother him in the future, he wouldn't find trouble with her. Woo woo woo! seeing as Sui left, Sure Susu, who was no longer a huge threat, cried loudly again. She was pitiful, sad, and wronged. Not long after, the restriction on her body was removed on its own. Sure Susu curled up right away and hugged herself tightly as she cried out loud. After crying for a while, she seemed to have felt that something was wrong. She tore the young man's clothes off her body and threw them on the ground, then she stomped on them. However, that was not enough to vent her anger. Just as she was about to tear the clothes apart, she suddenly realized that she had no leaves to cover her body. After exclaiming, Sure Susu finally picked up Suyi's clothes and wrapped them tightly around her body without even brushing the dust off them. After leaving the cave, Sure Susu hurried to the place where she was beaten earlier. She saw that her clothes were torn, but she couldn't find her interspatial bag even after searching for a while. Needless to say, Su-yi must have taken her interspatial bag when he left earlier. Fortunately, her sword was still nailed to a giant rock in the distance. D***MN thief bad guy, I'll definitely kill you. Sure Susu was still crying. She walked over and pulled out her longsword. Killing intent rose from her body again. Her clothes were already in tatters, so she couldn't wear them anymore. Her interspatial bag was also taken away by the shameless thief, so she could only wear the thief's clothes for the time being. This made Sure Susu feel disgusted, but there was nothing she could do about it. Someone's coming. Suddenly, Sure Susu sensed that there were movements not far away. Without further delay, she quickly tidied up her clothes and held her longsword in her hand. Swish, swish, swish. After a while, a group of people arrived and appeared at the periphery of the battlefield. It's Miss Sure. When the leader of the group saw the woman standing there, he immediately bowed respectfully and introduced himself. I'm Hong Jianxiu from the Tiangang sect. Greetings, Miss Sure. The group of people was a group of 7 or 8 disciples from the Tiangang sect. They had already released the people from the Wild Blade sect and the Absolute Heaven sect. Those people couldn't catch up with Su-yi, so it was useless to bring them along. As Hong Jianxiu spoke, he felt strange in his heart. Why was Sure Susu wearing a man's clothes? This made him very puzzled, but he didn't dare to ask because he had scruples in his heart. Seeing Hong Jianxiu's respectful attitude, Sure Susu glanced at him coldly and didn't say anything. Miss Sure, are you injured? Jianxiu has a good healing pill here. Hong Jianxiu looked carefully and found that Sure Susu's breath was not stable. She was obviously shocked, so he couldn't help but try to curry favor with her. This woman was an outstanding disciple of the Blue Cloud Palace. If he could gain her favor, it would definitely be very beneficial for the Tiangang sect. In addition, she was also a stunning woman. Whether it was her appearance or figure, it was rare in the world. If he could be moved by her at this time, in fact, not to mention being moved, even if he could take the opportunity to get close to her, it would be very good. Thinking of this, Hong Jianxiu only felt that this was an opportunity given by God. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Sure Susu's cold snort. Humph. Sure Susu stared coldly at Hong Jianxiu, then she turned around and left, turning a deaf ear to his attitude. Hong Jianxiu had just taken out his interspatial bag with one hand, but he was also stuck halfway. Endless embarrassment appeared on his face, and at the same time, extreme shame and anger were hidden on his face. This was completely like being slapped in the face, and it was unbearable. If it were not for his cultivation being inferior to Sure Susu's and the Blue Cloud Palace's absolute strength, Hong Jianxiu would have directly subdued the woman. Phew, after a moment, Hong Jianxiu let out a long breath. When he saw the figure disappear in the mountain forest, he calmed down. Some things were just thoughts, but if he really wanted to do it, he still had to have the corresponding strength to match it. Only then did Hong Jianxiu look at the battlefield here, and let his subordinates investigate a little. They only found a torn woman's clothes and nothing else. Find Su-yi for me. I can kill him and get the treasure at the same time. It's killing two birds with one stone. Hong Jianxiu remembered the serious matter, and could not help but say in a deep voice. Since he could not deal with Shi Susu, he would vent his anger on the young man from the Bawang sect. Hong Jianxiu did not believe that a disciple from a third-rate force would be able to do anything in front of him. Let's go. Under Hong Jianxiu's lead, the 7 to 8 figures from the Big Dipper sect leaped away and soon disappeared from the place. Along the way, Shi Susu had already wiped the tears on her face before the people from the Big Dipper sect appeared, so she did not continue to cry. However, at this time, the 2 places on his chest and back were still faintly hurting. She had only met Su Yi by chance today to take revenge on him and take back her blood demon god-killing sword. Who would have thought that she would end up in such a situation? How long had it been? The young man, who could have been killed with one hand in front of her back then, had grown to such an extent that he could easily defeat her. Most importantly, that thief. He was really that bold towards her. Bastard, shameless thief. Shi Susu gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. She wanted to say something fierce again, but when she thought of Su Yi's current strength, she actually felt powerless. Chapter 1065. Shi Susu forcefully suppressed her restless emotions and prepared to continue exploring the secret realm of ominous spirits. Not long after, she came to a small valley and found traces of a battle. There were sword marks and beast fur. After a brief observation, Shi Susu knew that some kind of treasure had appeared here. However, someone had taken it away before her. She did not linger and her figure flashed past. When Shi Susu arrived here and landed near a few colorful stones, her figure also appeared on the light screen in the square outside 9-Star City. Hey, isn't that Shi Susu? Why is she wearing a man's clothes? Soon, everyone noticed Shi Susu's strange outfit and someone could not help but exclaim in shock. She has disappeared for a while. It's so strange. What did she go through during this time? Someone else was puzzled and mumbled. Hee. Suddenly, a strange laughter sounded. Then, the voice said, could it be that she had sex with someone in a ravine and her clothes were torn and tattered? When this voice fell, many people in the surroundings suddenly cast their gazes over. They were glaring angrily, as if they wanted to eat someone. Some people with bad tempers even wanted to draw their swords and slash the person who spoke. Shi Susu was the goddess in many people's hearts. How could she be ridiculed by this guy? Everyone admired her, but no one dared to blaspheme her. This guy actually dared to say that their goddess had rolled in the grass with someone else, and even tore her clothes. If this could be tolerated, what else could be tolerated? Seeing the murderous gazes around him, the person who spoke was immediately frightened. He immediately shut his mouth and pretended that he did not say anything. He knew that no one in 9-Star City dared to make a move now. However, once the Alliance Conference ended, he would have nowhere to run. Shi Susu must have gone through a big battle and her clothes were torn. She just happened to meet a male disciple and asked him for her clothes. Soon, someone said this and many people nodded in agreement. They did not want to investigate further because they did not want to think about what their goddess had done. However, the more they thought about it, the harder it was to get rid of the knot in their hearts. Secret realm of ominous spirit. Where else can you find a good person like me in this world? Su Yi sighed as he walked through the forest. He only felt that he was a good young man from head to toe. He was even more of a gentleman than a gentleman who was calm and collected. If it were anyone else, they would have eaten Shi Susu up long ago. I hope it won't leave any scars, or it will ruin the beauty. Su Yi muttered. He felt that it would be best if his claw marks could disappear completely from the 2 soft lumps in front of Shi Susu. Otherwise, it would be a pity if such a perfect thing was destroyed. But that feeling, it's really good. Su Yi scratched the air a few times with his fingers, and there was an expression of reminiscence on his face. He even licked his lips with a look of enjoyment. Even when he thought of that dense forest again, he still felt his mouth go dry and his lower abdomen burn. "Pervert, what are you thinking?" Suddenly, Sue scolded himself and expelled all the strange thoughts from his mind. His mind kept going astray. Would that not make him a pervert like Susu said? I wonder where the tool spirit beast went. Sue quickly thought of the proper business. It had been almost 2 days since he entered the secret realm of ominous spirit. He had some gains, but they were definitely not abundant. The tool spirit beast that he encountered was definitely a rare and precious treasure. If he could obtain it, he would have struck gold. I'll try the old method. What if it works? Suddenly, Sue took out a small bottle of spiritual liquid from his interspatial bag and opened the bottle cap, causing a rich fragrance to spread out. Now, he could only make a Hail Mary effort. He only hoped that the tool spirit beast was not far away from him and would step into the pit. However, what Sue did not know was that his actions did not attract the tool spirit beast, but it attracted the attention of a group of people behind him. What rich spiritual chi, and it has an unusual aura. What's this smell? This group of people was Hong Jianqiu and 7 other disciples of the Big Dipper sect. Could it be the aura emitted by the precious treasure? Doesn't that mean that the treasure is nearby? A disciple of the Big Dipper sect was pleasantly surprised. His whole body was spirited, not only because the aura could really make people excited, but also because of the excitement in his heart. If the precious treasure fell into the hands of the Big Dipper sect, he probably would not have a share, but if he made a contribution, he would be greatly rewarded. It doesn't seem like the treasure that the Extreme Heaven sect and the Blood Blade sect are looking for. They said that it might be a tool spirit. This aura seems to be emitted by another kind of treasure, Hong Jianqiu said in a deep voice. His heroic eyebrows were raised like sharp swords. Then let's quickly follow the aura to find it, lest we lose track of it. A disciple quickly reminded. No matter what kind of treasure it was, since it could emit such a rich aura, it was definitely not ordinary. If they could obtain it, it would definitely be a huge gain. Let's go. Hong Jianqiu made a prompt decision. In fact, the 7 disciples quickly left, chasing after the aura. Little beast, you must come out when you smell this aura. I definitely won't hurt you. Follow me, and I can give you great benefits. Even if you don't want to follow me, we can still be good friends. I can give you a lot of spiritual liquid. Along the way, Sue muttered incessantly like a monk chanting scriptures. His mind was filled with thoughts of the little artifact spirit beast. He did not walk fast, and would even occasionally stop to wait, hoping to see the little beast reappear. However, the result disappointed Sue. The little beast did not appear again. The sky slowly darkened, and the roars of beasts echoed in the secret realm. There's someone in front. Suddenly, the sound of fighting came from the front. Sue directly jumped up and rushed in that direction. Not long later, a few figures and a barbaric beast appeared in his line of sight. This was a valley. 2 young men and 1 young woman were currently working together to fight an intense battle with a barbaric demonic beast. Flaming winged demonic tiger, so it's this type of barbaric beast. Sue raised his eyebrows and said as he looked in front. In his eyes, the barbaric beast's body was extremely majestic. It had a black tiger body, but a pair of wings that were as red as fire. The tiger's claws were like the wind, and it constantly swung them. Violent blades whistled as they attacked the 3 people in front of it like a storm. The flaming winged demonic tiger roared continuously. As it flapped its wings, terrifying flames shot out, as if it could burn everything in the sky. Anything that came into contact with it, regardless of whether it was trees or rocks, was turned into ashes. This flaming winged demonic tiger has probably reached the demon illusionary stage. Looking at the barbaric beast's terrifying attack, Sui could not help but mutter to himself. To him, a demon illusionary stage barbaric beast was no longer a threat to him. With the Origin Supreme technique, even a 9th-level demon illusionary stage barbaric beast could be easily subdued. Shang Wangchen, Shui Yuechan, Lu Zhua. Su Yi's gaze moved again, and he recognized the 3 young people. The 2 men were Shang Wangchen from the Boundless Palace and Ruan Zhua from the Jade Tripod clan. The woman had an exquisite figure and an elegant temperament. She was Shui Yuechan from the Purple Shadow Tower. It had to be said that these 3 young experts from second-rate forces were very powerful. With their strength at the 9th level of Yuan Zhen stage, they were actually on par with the flaming winged demonic tiger at the 1st level of the demon illusionary stage. It was hard to tell who would win in a short period of time. Whoosh, waves of terrifying energy were emitted from the flaming winged demonic tiger and the 3 people, setting off a powerful destructive storm that swept across the forest, destroying everything in its path. Endless smoke and dust danced in the air, covering the sky and covering the sun. Waves of energy emitted light, illuminating the dark night as if it was daytime. Retreat. Su Yi did not hide his arrival, and the few people in the battle quickly noticed him. They could not help but retreat at the same time. Seeing the 3 people retreat, the flaming winged demonic tiger also retreated a distance away. Its eyes stared at them, faintly guarding a tall tree behind it. I know you're Su Yi from the Bawang sect. Since you're here, that's great. The 4 of us will join forces and take down this flaming winged demonic tiger. Then, we'll be able to obtain the heavenly wood nectar that it's guarding. Shang Wangchen wore a brocade robe with a jade belt around his waist. His hair was tall, and he had an extraordinary temperament. He pointed behind the flaming winged demonic tiger and said to Su Yi, when the time comes, the 4 of us will share the heavenly wood nectar equally. I wonder what you think, Su Yi? As he spoke, Shang Wangchen looked at Su Yi with a faint look of anticipation. He knew that this young man's strength was very powerful, and he was definitely not inferior to them. Chapter 1066. However, just as Shang Wangchen finished speaking, before Su Yi could say anything, Ruan Zhua from the Jade Tripod sect looked displeased. He glanced at Su Yi, then looked at Shang Wangchen and said, the 3 of us found this Zhen wood nectar. It doesn't seem appropriate to let a brat from a 3rd-rate force like him share it equally, right? He glanced at Su Yi with a faint look of disdain, but he did not show much hostility. It was just a look of disdain. It's very difficult for the 3 of us to defeat the flaming winged demonic tiger. If Su Yi is willing to make a move, we have almost absolute confidence. I think that if we share it equally with him, no one will suffer a loss. Shang Wangchen shook his head and said indifferently, Humph. If the 3 of us work harder, we might not be unable to defeat this flaming winged demonic tiger. In addition, I've also informed the disciples of the Jade Tripod sect. Someone should be rushing over soon. When that time comes, we won't need his help. Ruanzhua snorted coldly. In Ruanzhua's opinion, Su Yi only came from an insignificant small force. Before this alliance conference, no one had even heard of the Bawang sect's name. Calling him a 3rd-rate force was already praising him enough. And such a youth, no matter how talented or strong he was, so what? Without a powerful sect as a foundation, he was still a rootless duckweed and would not be able to go far. As for whether he could stand out in this mystic realm's test and be taken in as a disciple by a certain force, all of this would depend on whether he could survive to the end. Before entering this place, some people had sworn to kill Su Yi in this mystic realm. Ruanzhua naturally knew about it. I think young Master Shang is right. The 4 of us will work together to take down the flaming winged demonic tiger and then split the Zhen wood nectar equally. It's fair and reasonable. At this moment, Shui Yuechan from the purple shadow tower opened her red lips and said softly. Shang Wangchen nodded in agreement. So it's the Zhen wood nectar. As the three of them conversed, Sui heard everything, but he did not respond. His gaze flickered as he looked behind the flaming-winged devil tiger. There was a large tree that required 2 people to wrap their arms around it. The tree trunk was covered with strange burls, and there was even juice dripping from these burls. 30 feet above the ground, there was a hole the size of a washbasin. Sui had also heard of this great wood nectar, and knew that it was possible to extract its juice from the hole. When consumed, the nectar had a certain nourishing effect on the soul, and its effects could be said to be extraordinary. Knowing that it was such a treasure, Sui was naturally tempted. After all, items that could nourish the soul were not easy to find. They were much rarer than ordinary treasures. Humph. I don't agree with this. It's better to wait here for the disciples of my sect to come. It's better than giving the treasure to others. Ruanjua snorted and said with a flick of his sleeve. Seeing his attitude, Shang Wangchen's face was filled with displeasure as he frowned. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Su Yi's laughter. Since you don't welcome me, then I'll go and get this great wood nectar by myself. Su Yi smiled at Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan. He did not even look at Ruanjua as he walked towards the flaming-winged devil tiger. He had a good impression of the 2 disciples from Boundless Palace and Purple Shadow Tower, especially Shang Wangchen. His temperament was like his appearance, quite magnanimous and elegant. However, when it came to treasures, Sui did not care about that. He could not wait for someone to reject him so that he could openly take it for himself. Brother Sui, seeing Sui striding away, Shang Wangchen stretched out his hand as if he wanted to say something. However, looking at the young man's back, he had a strange feeling that the young man was really confident. What an arrogant kid! You actually want to fight the flaming-winged devil tiger alone. I'd like to see how you'll die. Looking at Sui walking past him, Ruanjua sneered and said ferociously. That was the flaming-winged devil tiger, a true first-level demon void stage barbaric demon beast. Even though it had just broken through, it was much stronger than an ordinary second-level origin stage human. Only he, Wang Chen, and Shui Yuchan were from second-tier factions. They were the most outstanding cultivators among the younger generation. Their strength was extraordinary, and they had many trump cards to rely on. Otherwise, if 3 ordinary 9th-level origin stage martial artists were here, they would only be crushed by the flaming-winged devil tiger. Who the hell was that Sui? He actually dared to go up alone. He was definitely trying to tear them apart. Arrogant kid, Ruanjua sneered. He originally did not have any enmity towards Sui. He only looked down on him. However, he really wanted to see him die under the flaming-winged devil tiger's claws and be swallowed into the tiger's stomach. He watched as the young man's figure walked further and further away, getting closer and closer to the flaming-winged devil tiger. It went from 10 feet to 20 feet, then to 10 feet. Even though there was quite a distance between them, Ruanjua could still hear the low roar coming from the flaming-winged devil tiger's mouth. At the same time, the tiger's body gradually crouched down. Its wings flapped lightly as if it was about to pounce. It could suddenly attack and tear the young man into pieces at any time. Sui was getting closer and closer to the flaming-winged devil tiger. Only 10 steps left. 7 steps. 5 steps, Sui. Shang Wangchen called out softly. However, it was not appropriate for him to go forward and stop Yi Shiwen. The flaming-winged demon's body was stretched taut to the extreme, like a large bow that was about to shoot out. However, in the next moment, an aura suddenly rose from Suyi's body. It was as if a powerful barbaric beast had suddenly descended. It carried a dense demonic aura. However, it was demonic but not evil as it directly spread out. Then, under the shocked gazes of Shang Wangchen, Shui Yuechan, and Ruan Zhua, the flaming winged devil tiger went limp under the aura. The aura that it had gathered with great difficulty was instantly gone. Then, the three young disciples from the second-rate forces saw the young man casually walk past the flaming winged devil tiger and went straight to the tree behind it. He did not even look back. How is this possible? Such an outcome caused the three of them to drop their jaws. It was as if they had seen a ghost. They could not believe it. That young man's footsteps, he actually walked past it just like that? That flaming winged devil tiger, Wanzhua opened his mouth as he felt his face start to burn. He could not understand the situation at all. Why would the flaming winged devil tiger lie on the ground and not get up? It was as if it was too frightened. Beast taming technique, this must be a beast taming technique. Although I don't know the specifics, his technique is definitely very brilliant. Soon, Shang Wangchen, Shui Yuechan, and Ruan Zhua all came to this conclusion. They only felt that Su Yi had mastered an incredible beast-taming technique that could subdue the flaming winged devil tiger. However, to be able to suppress someone of a higher level and make the flaming winged devil tiger behave so obediently, how powerful would it be? Until now, the three of them still felt that Su Yi's cultivation base was similar to theirs. They were all close to the peak of the 9th level Yuanjin stage. This was because they did not dare to imagine that a 17-year-old young man had already left them in the dust and stepped into the Origin Void stage. Moreover, he was at the 2nd level of the Origin Void stage. No, we can't let the Great Wood Nectar fall into his hands. Suddenly, Ruanzhua shouted in a deep voice. His figure instantly pounced forward as his origin energy rapidly formed in his palm. Looking at the young man who was about to reach the tree, he viciously slapped his palm over. Stop him! Su Yi did not even turn his head as he only said this one sentence. Then, with a roar, the flaming winged devil tiger that was originally lying on the ground in fear suddenly leaped into the air. Its pair of sharp claws that seemed capable of tearing the heavens and earth apart instantly stretched out. From Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan's point of view, this scene was as if Ruanzhua had pounced forward and directly delivered himself to the flaming winged devil tiger's claws. In an instant, the claws came into contact with Ruanzhua's chest. Seeing this, Ruanzhua's soul almost left his body. How could he still care about Su Yi? He changed the direction of his palm and collided with the tiger's claws. A huge force burst forth from the collision between the palm and the tiger's claws. Borrowing this powerful force, Ruanzhua flipped backward and quickly retreated to Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan's side. Roar! The flaming winged devil tiger roared in a low voice. It did not pursue and lay on the ground again as it stared coldly at Ruanzhua. The pair of deep tiger eyes moved horizontally, releasing a dense sense of ferocity that caused one's heart to palpitate. Ugh! After Ruanzhua stabilized himself, he felt a sweetness in his throat that he forcefully swallowed back. His face was extremely pale in an instant. On his chest there were a few claw marks that were so deep that one could see his bones. Fresh blood dripped from it, making him look miserable. If he had not reacted in time and dodged quickly, his stomach would have been split open. What a powerful flaming winged devil tiger! Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan's eyes flickered. The flaming winged devil tiger was extremely powerful, causing Ruanzhua to be heavily injured in just one attack. Quick attack! The heavenly wood nectar is going to be taken away by that brat. Even though he was heavily injured, Ruanzhua did not forget to shout at Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan. However, the two of them completely ignored him. They just quietly looked ahead, their eyes still filled with shock. In fact, not only did Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan not want to attack Su Yi, but they also knew that even if they attacked now, they would not be able to stop Su Yi. As long as the flaming winged devil tiger blocked them and delayed them, Su Yi would have enough time to take away the heavenly wood nectar in the tree hole. Seeing that the two of them were unmoved, Ruanjwa gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. When he looked at the young man again, there was a thick murderous intent in his eyes. An unknown Bawang sect disciple, a brat who was still wet behind the ears, actually took away the treasure right under his eyes. Chapter 1067. Su-yi did not care about the changes in the gazes of the people behind him, nor did he care about how interesting their expressions were. He walked to the side of the thick tree and directly climbed up to the tree-hole. Heavenly wood nectar. Filled with joy, Su-yi stuck his head out into the tree-hole and began to observe. This kind of tree that could produce heavenly wood nectar was different from ordinary trees. A part of the trunk of this tree was hollow. This tree grew in a place rich in spiritual energy and constantly absorbed the energy between heaven and earth. Eventually, it would turn into a miraculous liquid with miraculous effect. In terms of the root, it was similar to spiritual herbs. The only difference was that this tree only had effects on the liquid. Just as Su-yi stuck his head in, he discovered that there was a misty light inside. At first, Su-yi thought that it was the spiritual light emitted by the heavenly wood nectar. When he saw what was inside, he froze on the tree trunk. What is Su-yi doing? From Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan's point of view, Su-yi's neck was stuck in the tree hole and his body was hanging outside. This made them feel a little strange. He could have grabbed the heavenly wood nectar, but why didn't he do anything? In fact, what they did not know was that there was no heavenly wood nectar in the tree hole. There was only a pair of eyes looking at Su-yi. The eyes were sparkling and extremely bright, like the stars in the night sky. When it saw Su-yi, it even blinked twice. Obviously, the owner of the eyes was also stunned by the head that suddenly popped in. It's actually you. Su-yi, on the other hand, was only stunned for a moment before a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. At this time, the one that was looking at him was not a human, nor was it a barbaric beast. It was the little spirit beast that Su-yi saw before. Great, I actually met it here again. Su-yi's heart was bursting with joy. What a fruitless search. He had spent so much effort to find this little guy, but he had run away. Who would have thought that he would reappear at this time? Looking at the scene in the tree hole, it was obvious that the heavenly wood nectar had been eaten by the little beast. There was nothing left. Come with me, I will treat you well. Su-yi revealed a smile and said to the little beast. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand. There was no yuan qi fluctuation in his palm, as he was afraid that he would scare the little beast away. Roar! Only then did the little beast realize that the human above it was the one who gave it the heavenly wood nectar. However, the little beast was still flustered. It had never let a human get so close to it before. Seeing Su-yi's hand, the little beast let out a low roar, like a tiger and dragon's roar. Soon after, a small dragon claw reached out from under the turtle's shell and grabbed the interior of the tree hole. Chi, the seemingly small dragon claw, was like the sharpest weapon in the world. In an instant, it tore a small hole in the tree, causing debris to fly everywhere. This small hole was just enough for the little beast to pass through. Just before Su-yi's hand landed on it, the little beast passed through with a whoosh. Don't run. Su-yi panicked and immediately jumped down from the tree. He saw a dazzling ball of light flying in the dark night. Without thinking, he quickly chased after it. Encountering the little beast again, Su-yi did not want to let it escape again. It represented a treasure. Soon, one beast and one human passed through an extremely far distance and disappeared into the night. Until this scene, Shang Wangchen, Shui Yuechan, and Ruanjwa were still in a daze. Even the flaming winged demonic tiger did not understand the situation. Roar! Roar! When the flaming winged demonic tiger flew into the air and saw the hole in the tree hole, it roared with grief and anger. It seems like that little thing has already ruined the great wood nectar? After a long time, Shang Wangchen finally realized this fact. What was that just now? Shui Yuechan frowned and muttered to herself in confusion. They did not see the little beast's appearance clearly. They only saw Su Yi chasing after it and naturally felt that it was not an ordinary creature. Let's go and take a look. Shang Wangchen called out. The essence qi under his feet materialized as he stepped into the air and chased after them. Shui Yuechan thought for a while, then she followed Shang Wangchen's footsteps with her graceful figure. Only Ruanzhua and the flaming winged demonic tiger were left. Roar Su Yi's origin supreme technique dissipated and the flaming winged demonic tiger finally relaxed. Looking at the person who attacked it, it slowly stretched out its tiger claws and slowly approached. Bastard, I'll pull out your tendons and bones in the future. Ruanzhua cursed loudly and retreated at an extremely fast speed. The flaming winged demonic tiger watched him leave and turned back to look at the big tree. In the end, it did not chase after him. Instead, it returned to the bottom of the tree trunk and circled around with a pained expression in its eyes. On the other side, the 7 or 8 people from the Heavenly Dipper sect followed the strange aura. However, at a certain moment, all the auras suddenly stopped. Just as everyone was puzzled, they came face to face with Ruanzhua, who had retreated. Isn't this Ruanzhua of the Jade Tripod sect? Why are you so seriously injured? It seems like you were tortured by a barbaric beast. Hong Jianxiu chuckled and looked at the young man in front of him. Hong Jianxiu, what do you want? Ruanzhua's face was as dark as water. When he saw the large group of Heavenly Dipper sect disciples beside Hong Jianxiu, he immediately became cautious. If he fought with the other party here, with his current state, it was very likely that he would die here. He was very angry in his heart. It was one thing for him to not obtain the Great Wood Nectar, but he had actually suffered such serious injuries. He wanted to find a place to heal his injuries first, but he actually met Hong Jianxiu of the Heavenly Dipper sect. Although there was no deep hatred between them, if the other party had ill intentions and killed him here, the Jade Tripod sect would be helpless. What are you nervous about? Hong Jianxiu sneered and said disdainfully, I don't have time to deal with you. I just want to ask you one thing. Did you see Su Yi of the Bawang sect? Su Yi chased after the little beast. As long as he found him, he would be able to kill Su Yi and have a chance to obtain a supreme treasure. This matter was much more important than fighting with Ruanzhua. Hong Jianxiu did not want to waste time here. Su Yi. Ruanzhua was stunned at first, then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He said to Hong Jianxiu, he went in that direction. Not long after he left, he was chasing after a strange thing. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan also followed him. Hearing this, Hong Jianxiu's eyes lit up. It was as if he had heard great news in his heart. He had only asked casually, but he did not expect Ruanzhua to really see it. It just so happened that the aura they were chasing had been cut off, and they did not know if the so-called treasure in their imagination was real or fake. Now that they had news of Su Yi and the traces of the little beast, this was simply an opportunity that the heavens had arranged for their Heavenly Dipper sect. However, the more troublesome thing was that Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan had also followed. If these two people made a move, it would be quite troublesome. Ruanzhua, you have to be careful. Don't be eaten by the barbaric beasts in this myriad spirits' mystic realm. Hong Jianxiu chuckled again. Then, he waved at the 8 disciples beside him and said, Let's go. The group quickly disappeared into the forest, following the direction Ruanzhua had pointed out. In fact, they themselves didn't know that ever since they met Sang Ming of the Dark Yin Gate, the mysterious aura of the treasure, and now when they met Ruanzhua, they had been led by the nose by Su Yi. They didn't know where they would end up. What was even more strange was that Su Yi did not know any of this. He did not know that someone was looking for him and the little beast in the mystic realm. Little thing, don't run. Su Yi eagerly chased after the little beast. It could be said that he had used up a lot of energy. He took out a bottle of spiritual liquid to lure the little beast. Needless to say, this move was quite effective. It could really attract the little beast's attention, causing it to be unable to escape as quickly. However, it was extremely difficult for Su-yi to catch up to the little beast. Su-yi also knew that Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan were chasing after him. However, the two of them would definitely not be able to catch up with him. Su-yi wanted to run a little further and find an opportunity to lure the little beast to a secluded place so that it would not be able to escape. After running for a while, Su-yi finally found a suitable cave. He placed the spiritual liquid in the cave and then pretended to leave. He hid in the dark and quietly observed. However, the little beast seemed to have been shocked by the last time. Facing the temptation of the spiritual liquid, it was actually in a dilemma. It stood in the same place for a long time and did not take any further action. Go in, the spiritual liquid is in the cave. Su-yi, who was hiding in the distance, could not wait any longer. Seeing the little beast licking its lips greedily but with a lingering fear, his heart felt like it was being scratched by 100 claws. Yu Qijing #version H Chapter 1 Section 1 inch the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. However, the little beast did not stop looking around. Even if it walked towards the cave, it would only take a step out occasionally. That Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan should be here soon. There's no time, go in quickly. Su-yi mumbled to himself but did not dare to make a sound. He could only hide in the corner and worry about nothing. He did not want others to see him subduing the little beast. That would not benefit him at all. Hence, the best outcome would be to subdue the little beast before Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan arrived. Then, he would quickly leave. However, if there was no other choice, Su-yi could only settle for the second best. As long as he could subdue the little beast, it would be fine. Little thing, go in quickly. Su-yi kept mumbling to himself. At the same time, he retreated quite a distance to ensure that when he saw the little beast, he would be able to block Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan in advance so that they would not disturb the little beast. Chapter 1068. Swoosh swoosh. Not long after, Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan stepped on the treetops and quickly arrived. Sensing their movements, Su-yi immediately leaped onto the treetops and stopped the two of them. Under Su-yi's signal, Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan cooperated and did not make any movements. Instead, they moved stealthily towards the cave. When they saw the appearance of the little beast, the two young experts from the second-rate forces opened their mouths wide in disbelief. With their knowledge, they could naturally tell that the little beast's item was definitely extraordinary and very precious. They could feel a unique aura in the air that made them feel refreshed and comfortable. It was coming from the cave. It was not hard for Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan to guess that it was Su-yi's method to lure the little beast. Go in. Go in. Seeing Su-yi's mouth opening and closing as he kept muttering, Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan also started to look forward to seeing the little beast enter the cave. Under their gazes, the little beast with the four spirits coexisting body was still dawdling around the cave. It wanted to go in, but it was also extremely afraid. Su-yi, Shang Wangchen, and Shui Yuechan were very patient as they stared at the little beast from behind a dense tree. At this moment, on the way that Su-yi and the rest came, Hong Jianxiu and the rest from the Heavenly Dipper sect also quickly came over. It's that aura again. It seems that the treasure has appeared again. The disciples of the Heavenly Dipper sect were all surprised and excited. This aura could very well represent some kind of treasure. Hide all of your aura and try not to make any movements. This time, we can't miss this opportunity. Hong Jianxiu's eyes lit up as he secretly swore. The group's speed increased again as they chased after the aura. It's moving, it's moving. It's going in. In front of the cave, Su Yi and the rest waited for a long time. Finally, the little beast could not resist the temptation of the spiritual liquid and slowly walked towards the entrance of the cave. It looked back 3 times with every step and was extremely cautious. Seeing this, Su Yi's attention was focused to the extreme. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan also held their breaths. No one dared to act rashly. At such a crucial moment, even the slightest movement could scare the little beast away. Get ready! Seeing the little beast enter the cave, Su Yi's body tensed up as he was ready to make a move. However, just as he was about to jump down from the tree and sneak towards the cave, a soft sound came from behind him. Hearing this soft exclamation, Su Yi's heart screamed again. However, this wasn't the end. When the soft exclamation sounded, several young men cried out in surprise at the same time. Look! Isn't that the little beast discovered by the Mad Blade sect and the Absolute Heaven sect? It's really an artifact spirit, it's amazing. Catch it, don't let it run away. Quick! These voices came quickly, like the wind and lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they approached the tree where Su Yi and the rest were. They were none other than the people from the Tiangang sect led by Hong Jianxiu. This group of people all suppressed their aura, and Su Yi's attention was completely focused on the little beast, so when they came close, Su Yi did not immediately notice them. 8 figures streaked across the sky and no longer restrained themselves. All of them burst out with chi as they rushed towards the cave like a swarm of bees. Their target was the little critter. At this moment, Hong Jianxiu and the others were all overjoyed. It turned out that what the people from the Wild Blade sect and the Heaven Severing sect said was true. This little beast was definitely an artifact spirit that only a powerful artifact could have. If they could get it, it would be a great benefit for the entire Tiangang sect. At that time, not only the young master Hong Jianxiu, but all the disciples who participated in this operation would be rewarded by the sect. This kind of good thing made them excited to the extreme. However, in contrast to the excitement of these 8 people, Su Yi opened his mouth at this time and cursed loudly. I'll **ck your mother's balls. The fury in his heart surged to his head with a whoosh, but he still suppressed his anger and rushed out, running towards the cave. However, it was really too late. When the little beast heard Hong Jianxiu and the others talking, it had already realized that something was wrong. This time, it directly picked up the spiritual liquid bottle placed in the cave, spread its wings, and flapped out a blazing flame. It quickly rushed out, like a flash of lightning, and once again plunged into the bushes. Don't run. Su Yi hurriedly chased. Quickly chase, don't let it run away. You must catch it, this is a once-in-a-lifetime benefit. We're going to be rich this time. Several people from the Tiangang sect did not realize that they could not catch up with the little beast, and were still in extreme excitement, shouting one by one. On Hong Jianxiu's handsome face, there was also an uncontrollable excitement. Naturally, he saw Su Yi appear and even ran in front of them to chase after him. However, Hong Jianxiu did not care. At this time, the treasure was more important. If he wanted to kill Su Yi, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future, so it was better to catch the little beast first. We failed at the last step. At the back, Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuchan also jumped out. They looked at each other, shook their heads, and said regretfully. They saw that the little beast had already entered the cave, and as long as they carefully sneaked over, there was a high chance that they could catch it. But now, the Tiangang sect's group had ruined their plan. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuchan felt that it was a pity, and they also wanted to see what the item behind the little beast was. Even if it did not belong to them, it would be good to see it. Let's follow and see. Shang Wangchen did not delay, and together with Shui Yuchan, they chased after Su Yi, Hong Jianxiu, and the others. **ck. After Su Yi chased for a distance, he had completely lost sight of the little beast, and could not help but curse. He had prepared the spiritual liquid, waited for so long and waited patiently, with the goal of capturing the little beast. But now, someone had inexplicably messed up his plans. Such a scene was so familiar, and it was so similar to the situation when Susu suddenly appeared. He had already used 2 bottles of spiritual liquid, but the little beast still managed to escape. Every time he failed, it made Sui furious, and he was on the verge of exploding. It escaped, it's gone. How did the little beast run so fast? It disappeared in an instant. What a pity we did not catch it. We underestimated it, we should have been more careful. Why don't we continue to search? There will be a chance to find it again. The people from the Big Dipper sect quickly passed by Suyi's position. Their eyes were filled with sighs, looking extremely regretful. It escaped. Hong Jianxiu's eyes flickered, and he clapped his hands in frustration. He did not even look at Sui, and did not think that this young man's speed was much faster than theirs. Right now, Hong Jianxiu's mind was filled with the little beast. But now, he did not know where to go, so he could only give up for now. Young sect leader. At this moment, a Tiangang sect's disciple finally calmed down, and came to Hong Jianxiu's side, using his eyes to signal him to look to the side. As far as the eye could see, the Bawang sect's young man was standing on top of a tree, frowning, and his aura fluctuated faintly, as if he was brewing anger. Seeing this, Hong Jianxiu only chuckled, and turned to face Sui and said lightly, "The big fish escaped, but there is still a small fish here. Not bad, however." Before he could finish his sentence, the rest of his words were directly rebutted by Sui. "Are you guys crazy? Without even making a sound, you suddenly jumped out?" Sui had nowhere to vent his anger at this time, and only wanted to scold people to vent his anger. He had been tormented for so long, and had used all his methods. Once, he was ruined, twice, and he was about to go berserk. "Brat you!" Hong Jianxiu choked, and his face instantly turned ugly. He did not expect that Sui would actually dare to scold him in front of him. Who was this brat? He actually dared to do this. Was he not afraid of death? You? I'm your grandpa." Sui cursed loudly, but still did not vent his anger, and glared fiercely at Hong Jianxiu. Suyi's angry words caused Hong Jianxiu and all the disciples of the Tiangang sect to turn purple. They could not believe that this brat actually dared to speak to them like this. "Sui, you have guts." Hong Jianxiu's face darkened as he coldly stared at Sui and said, "I'd like to see if you'll still have such guts when you're facing death." As he spoke, the aura on Hong Jianxiu's body began to rise. He slowly pulled out the long sword in his hand, and the invisible aura grew. The nearby forest was illuminated by the night sky. "Be careful, don't let this brat escape." After Hong Jianxiu began to move, the remaining 7 people of the Tiangang sect also surrounded him. With Sui as the center, they formed a pincer formation. A murderous aura spread out from every Big Dipper sect's disciple's body. A cold smile surfaced in their eyes. "Oh, is that so?" Facing this situation, Suyi's eyebrows suddenly rose, and he said in surprise, "Could it be that you want to kill me?" This was what surprised Sui the most. He did not expect that after his good deed was ruined by Hong Jianxiu and the others, not only did the other party not feel the slightest bit of guilt, they even wanted to kill him with just a few words. This was a little unreasonable. I've said it before, the big fish, the artifact spirit, ran away, but you can barely be considered a small fish. Since we met in the secret realm of ominous spirits, there's no reason to let you live. Chapter 1069. You want to kill me with just a few small fries? Sui was stunned for a moment before a cold smirk appeared on his face. He then realized that they had been targeting him for a long time. However, he did not know why these people would want to kill him when he had no dealings with the Tiangang sect. However, Sui was not too bothered by this. he knew that none of the young disciples who had entered the secret realm of ominous spirits would be his match. Moreover, the Tiangang sect was just a small second-rate force that was not even worth mentioning. However, the moment he said that, the surrounding disciples of the Tiangang sect burst into laughter as though they had heard the funniest joke in the world. What? Did I hear wrongly? What did this kid just say? He said we are small fries? We are just small fries in his eyes? Ha 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 ha! Who gave him the guts to say such things? He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Isn't he afraid that the wind will cut his tongue? Who does this brat think he is? He's just a nobody from the Overlord sect, yet he dares to speak so arrogantly. Ha ha! Do you think we are the 7-Star Sword School or the Gimdeo sect? Or the Sunblaze sect or the Green Sanctuary sect? What arrogance! I almost died from the smell. The few of them laughed so hard that they were swaying back and forth. Some of them even felt that they were about to pass out. They did not know if they should say that Su-yi was ignorant or arrogant. Humph! You are really arrogant. It seems like those third-rate forces have inflated your ego to such an extent. The corners of Hong Jianxiu's mouth twitched as he lightly raised his sword, and light flickered on it as he looked at Su-yi and said with a savage voice, "It's good to let you die knowing the reason. We're members of the Heavenly Dipper sect, and we're not something that the Golden Saber sect and 7-Star Sword sect can compare to. Don't think that you can look down on everyone just because you have defeated a bunch of small fries. Today I will teach you a good lesson." As he spoke, the way Hong Jianxiu looked at Su-yi had changed. Originally, he thought that they would need to use their true strength to deal with this brat, but he never thought that he would be so arrogant and conceited. Thus, Hong Jianxiu instantly underestimated Su-yi once more, and he sneered endlessly in his heart. The Gimdeo sect, the 7-Star Sword School, the Sunblaze sect, and the Green Sanctuary sect had been dealt with so miserably by this brat. It could only be said that they were too useless. However, their Heavenly Dipper sect was a second-rate power. It was not something those unbearable sects could compare to. Hong Jianxiu from the Heavenly Dipper sect? Su-yi didn't care about the laughter at all. He stared at the young man in the lead and knew who he was. "Since you know that this is our young sect master, why don't you just surrender? We can consider giving you a quick death." A Heavenly Dipper sect disciple stepped forward and pointed his sword at Su-yi. The rest of the people stared at him as if they were looking at a dead man. "Surrender?" Su-yi chuckled and said casually, "Why don't the 7 of you chop off Hong Jianxiu's head and give it to me? I can also consider giving the 7 of you a quick death. How about that?" "Arrogant brat!" A Heavenly Dipper sect disciple shouted coldly. In the eyes of these disciples, the young man from the Bawang sect's smiling face was extremely repulsive. At the same time, he was like a huge idiot who didn't know that he was about to die. "Young sect master, let's not talk nonsense with this brat anymore. Let me teach him a lesson about the immensity of heaven and earth." At this moment, another Heavenly Dipper sect disciple stepped forward and sneered at Su-yi. Hong Jianxiu didn't say anything and only nodded his head lightly. The disciple who spoke was very powerful among his peers in the Heavenly Dipper sect. He was about to step into the 9th level of Yuan Zhen realm. It could be said that he was extraordinarily talented. All along, Hong Jianxiu's understanding of Su-yi was based on what he had heard. However, for such a young man to become the champion of the Middle State Sacred Martial Arts Conference and create such a huge commotion in the Chaos region, he must have some real skills. No matter how young he was, Hong Jianxiu would not underestimate him. Now that a disciple had stepped forward, it was a good opportunity for Hong Jianxiu to test Su-yi's true strength. "Brat, today I will show you the strength of the Heavenly Dipper sect. It is not something that the Gimdeo sect or the 7-Star Sword School can compare with." Seeing that Hong Jianxiu had agreed, the disciple immediately shouted and charged forward with his sword. A dazzling sword light shot out in front of him and turned into a terrifying dragon. It opened its huge mouth and bit towards Sui. Ao look at the original version equals chapter H. The dragon's body moved across the sky. As it twisted its body, it crushed the void and made a rumbling sound. Its momentum was vast. The power of the peak of the 8th level of Yuan-Zhen realm burst out in the void. It was like a vast ocean accompanied by the dragon's movement. Raging waves surged and were about to swallow Su Yi's body. However, the young man from the Bawang sect did not take any action. He just stood there quietly and did not move. Is this brat scared out of his wits? He doesn't even know how to resist? I was wondering how strong he was to be able to beat up a few third-rate sections. Now it seems that it was all a rumor. He's just a frog at the bottom of a well. It's normal for him to be scared out of his wits when he sees a real powerhouse. We don't have to do anything. This will definitely be enough for that brat to suffer. The surrounding disciples of the Tiangang sect sneered again. In their eyes, Su Yi seemed to be in a daze and did not react at all. In their opinion, although this young man was famous, he had never experienced a real life and death battle. Not to mention what he had done in the Chaos region, just dealing with a group of third-rate forces. Just the fact that Su Yi had won the championship of the Central States Sacred Martial Arts Conference was meaningless in front of the Heavenly Dipper sect. It was said that the saint of the Sacred Mountain, Naren Ruyu, was only about 18 or 19 years old. It was not hard to understand why he was defeated by Su Yi. If Naren Ruyu were to come in front of the Tiangang sect at this moment, wouldn't he be defeated with a slap? No matter how good one's talent was, without enough time to grow, it was all empty talk. The age gap of more than 10 years was enough to make even the strongest talent useless. Under everyone's gazes, the dragon roared in the void and appeared a few feet in front of Su Yi. It was also at this moment that they saw the young man from the Bawang sect slowly raise a hand and hurriedly clench it into a fist to meet the attack. It's too late. The disciples of the Tiangang sect sneered, including Hong Jianxiu, who felt extremely disdainful. Su Yi only realized at this moment that it was impossible to change the situation. Everyone looked on coldly, waiting for the young man's figure to be swallowed by the dragon formed by the sword light. These disciples of the Tiangang sect were full of anticipation. However, in the next moment, their sneers all froze on their faces and gradually became stiff. Under their gazes, the young man's fist swung out at an extremely terrifying speed and collided with the dragon without any fancy moves. As for the resplendent flood dragon formed by the sword light, it was like a clay chicken or a pottery dog, disintegrating under the fist that did not have any yuan qi fluctuations. In the blink of an eye, the young man's fist smashed the sword light in front of him like a hot knife through butter. It was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. There was not the slightest bit of stagnation. Terrifying, shattering energy shot out in the void, like a rain of light, magnificent and gorgeous. In such a gorgeous and beautiful scene, Su Yi's fist drove straight in. It was strong and unparalleled. First, it blasted away all the energy, and then the long sword in the disciple's hand was broken piece by piece. Finally, the fist went straight to the root of the problem and brazenly smashed into the chest of the Tiangang sect disciple. Puff! A muffled sound was heard, accompanied by a spurt of blood in the void. The body of the Tiangang sect disciple was like a kite with a broken string, directly flying backward. Blood spurted out from his body like a fountain and floated in the void. Bang! The disciple's body drew a straight line and violently smashed into a big tree behind him, breaking the tree in half and sending debris flying everywhere. The remaining people of the Tiangang sect all watched as the figure flew far away and crashed to the ground. There was no sound, no one knew whether he was alive or dead. Looking at this scene, the smiles of the 7 people, including Hong Jianqiu, froze. It was as if they were cramping, and their expressions could not be erased. Each of them widened their eyes in disbelief. Senior Brother Ma. After a long time, a few disciples of the Tiangang sect exclaimed, "How can he be so strong?" Someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva fiercely, as if his whole body was stunned, and he murmured. None of the Tiangang sect members present expected that Su Yi of the Bawang sect would be so strong. One should know that their senior brother Ma was at the peak of LV8 Yuanzhen stage, and was one of the top figures among his peers in the Tiangang sect. Even if senior brother Ma had underestimated his opponent and did not use his full strength, he should not have been defeated so easily. His attack, which was launched later but arrived first, had actually defeated senior brother Ma's powerful sword light. Among all of them, perhaps only the young sect leader could do such a thing. That's right, it was only possible, but whether or not he could succeed was another matter altogether. Moreover, the young man had just used his fist to fight against the sword, and there was no fluctuation of yuan qi. What a terrifying physical body! Hong Jianqiu's throat moved as he spoke in shock and disbelief. It seemed that this Bawang sect's Su Yi was indeed not simple. With only the strength of his physical body, he had defeated the attack of a peak LV8 Yuanzhen stage martial artist, and even severely injured his opponent. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. At this point, no matter how much Hong Jianqiu felt that Su Yi was a bumpkin, he did not dare to underestimate him anymore. Chapter 1070. Senior Brother Ma is dead. A Big Dipper sect disciple ran out to check on Senior Brother Ma's condition and reported to the others. Hearing this, the remaining 7 people were horrified. Su Yi's attack was too fast. He killed Senior Brother Ma in a crushing manner. Such strength made Hong Jianqiu and the others solemn. This kid is too powerful. Let's attack together. I want him to die without a burial place today. Hong Jianqiu stared at Su Yi and said in a deep voice, "No one would have thought that a peak level 8 Yuanzhen realm martial artist would not even be qualified to resist Su Yi." Yes, young sect leader. After Hong Jianqiu's order, the rest of the Big Dipper sect disciples were on high alert. They raised their swords and sabers and pointed them at Su Yi. Waves of ferocious energy were emitted from their bodies. Light bloomed and the void trembled. Is this the strength of a second-rate forces disciple? Seems like this is all there is to it. Su Yi was not nervous at all. He curled his lips and said indifferently, Yuanzhen stage cultivators were no longer a challenge to him. Kid, don't boast so shamelessly. Don't think that we will continue to be careless. This time, we will tear you into pieces. A Big Dipper sect disciple said coldly. However, he did not sound as confident as he did before. Is that so? Su Yi sneered and said, I will still say the same thing. If you cut off Hong Jianqiu's head, I will consider letting you go. His face was still not looking good. It was not only because of these Big Dipper sect disciples, but also because they had scared away the artifact spirit. Don't talk nonsense with him. Attack together and kill him. Hong Jianqiu's face changed as he shouted. With that said, 7 figures pounced out at the same time, charging towards Su Yi. I haven't settled the score with you for scaring away the artifact spirit. How dare you provoke me? Su Yi sneered and said slowly, You can't blame anyone else for dying here today. You can only blame yourselves for being blind. You shouldn't have brought trouble upon yourselves. When he said this, Su Yi directly stepped into the air. His feet continued to move in the void. Every step he took brought with it an extremely mysterious will, causing his figure to be like a ghost, drifting erratically. None of the swords and sabers from the Heavenly Dipper sect could touch his body. That youth passed through the rain of swords without a single drop touching his body. PFFF. As Su Yi executed the Fuyao's 100 transformation steps, he calmly struck out with his palm. With a single strike, he instantly sent a person flying, and fresh blood splattered in the air. This is the origin void stage? Soon, Hong Jianqiu noticed that something was amiss. The strength that Su Yi displayed completely crushed them. He was walking in the void, and did not rely on Yuan Qi to take form. This could only prove that they were facing an origin void realm expert. How is this possible? The Heavenly Dipper sect's disciples were shocked to the extreme. Everyone's eyes were filled with horror. The origin void stage. A 17-year-old origin void stage expert. If the experts in the outside world knew about this, how many people would be shocked to death? It would be difficult to find another youth like this in the entire 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean, let alone the Chaos region. It was too normal for the Holy Son of the Holy Mountain to be defeated by such a talented person. Run! Run! At this moment, Hong Jianqiu was the first to react. He knew that the Heavenly Dipper sect's plan this time had completely failed. With their strength, they could not kill Su Yi from the Bawang sect. Not to mention the Heavenly Dipper sect, even the Ash Cloud Palace, 9 Stars Valley, and Blood Sun sect would not be able to hold this youth back. Run, run, run! Hong Jianqiu could not care about the other disciples. He immediately retreated and wanted to escape. This was too much of a joke. In front of an origin void stage expert, he had no other choice but to run for his life. Unless there were a few people around him who were about the same strength as him, then he could barely resist. However, that would only buy him some time. You think you can come and go as you please? I don't have the habit of letting any of my enemies go. Since you want to kill me, then all of you shall leave your lives here. Su Yi said coldly. Every time he swung his palm, he would hit a Heavenly Dipper sect's disciple's chest. Along with the scene of blood spurting out, the sound of organs exploding from those people's chests could be heard. After each of them was sent flying, they all landed in the distance, and could not be more dead. You can't run away. These words came out of Su Yi's mouth. After getting rid of everyone, the origin chi under his feet floated, and he chased after Hong Jianqiu again. Huff, huff, when Su Yi's last palm arrived behind Hong Jianqiu with the sound of wind, all the hair on Hong Jianqiu's body stood on end. Before he died, he screamed in pain, Yang Baikuan framed me. His body was sent flying, his chest burst open, and blood splattered everywhere. This young sect master of the Heavenly Dipper sect died tragically at the hands of Su Yi. So it's related to the Gimdeo sect. Su Yi raised his eyebrows. So Hong Jianqiu was related to the Gimdeo sect, which was why he was hostile to him, and wanted to kill him the moment he came up. There was no hatred in this world for no reason. This explained everything. Swish, swish, when Su Yi landed on the ground, 2 figures flashed and arrived in front of him. These 2 people were none other than Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan, whom Su Yi had seen earlier. Su Yi had a good impression of them, much better than Ruan Zhua of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect. At the very least, he did not see the arrogance that disciples of large sects usually had from these 2 people. Su Yi Shang Wangchen saw the situation around him and wanted to say something but hesitated. He and Shui Yuechan had seen the scene of Su Yi killing Hong Jianqiu from afar. Do you have an old relationship with Hong Jianqiu? Su Yi raised his eyebrows and asked indifferently. Even though Su Yi had a good impression of the 2 of them, he would not hesitate to kill the 2 of them if they made a move. Brother Su Yi, you've misunderstood. Shang Wangchen shook his head and said, I have nothing to do with the Heavenly Dipper sect. I just think that you're too impulsive. I'm afraid that you'll cause a huge disaster. Shui Yuechan crossed her jade-like hands in front of her and nodded, not replying. What kind of disaster? Su Yi was puzzled and could not help but ask Shang Wangchen. Look at those colorful stones. Shang Wangchen pointed. Following his gaze, Su Yi saw some colorful stones scattered not far away. He remembered that there were a few complete colorful stones. However, when he killed Hong Jianqiu, his body smashed the stones into pieces. They're just some strange stones. There's nothing special about them. What's wrong? Su Yi was still puzzled. This was not the first time he had seen such stones in the secret territory. He had also noticed them but did not find anything out of the ordinary. Seeing him like this, Shui Yuechan stepped forward and said in a clear voice, "That's a trick set up by the experts of the Alliance. It belongs to the phantom world of the occult sect. It can transmit images of this place to the outside world so that many people can see it. There are many of these things in the secret territory. The purpose is to let the outside world see the opportunities and battles between the younger generation experts." I see. Su Yi nodded. He finally understood. He had heard that the experts of the outside world had a way to see the situation in the secret territory. However, he did not know the details. It turned out that the colorful stones had such an effect. In other words, the outside world probably knows that you have killed the people of the Tiangang sect. Shang Wangchen's tone was solemn as he spoke again. There is the danger of death in the secret realm of ominous spirits. You may die in some strange place, be buried in the stomach of a barbaric beast, or die in a competition between your peers. However, this does not mean that the Tiangang sect will not find trouble with you just because you killed them. Moreover, their young master, Hong Jianqiu, died in your hands. Su Yi understood immediately. The trip to the secret territory of Zhaoling was a training ground for all the sects and clans. It was also a great opportunity for them. However, this did not mean that they would watch their disciple die here. Hence, once the secret territory was over, the Tiangang sect would definitely find Su Yi to take revenge for their disciples. Actually, Su Yi understood that this was only because he only had the Overlord sect behind him. If he had the Azure Cloud Palace, the Nine Stars Valley, or the Blood Sun sect behind him, the Heavenly Dipper sect could only pinch their noses and obediently swallow any bitterness back into their stomachs. Since I have already killed them, let's leave it at that. Su Yi said nonchalantly. Brother Su Yi, you should not have killed them. The Tiangang sect is very difficult to deal with. You should be careful. Seeing Su Yi's fearless expression, Shang Wangchen's heart was filled with admiration. Although he was shocked by Su Yi's courage, he couldn't help but remind Su Yi. Difficult to deal with? Su Yi looked up and smiled. More difficult than the sacred mountain? Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan were both speechless for a long time. Yes, this young man even dared to offend the sacred mountain. Would he be afraid of the Tiangang sect? The sacred mountain was a place that countless people yearned for. Even they, who were far away in the Chaos territory, admired it. One had to know that the Dark Cloud Palace, the Nine Stars Valley, and the Blood Sun sect, these three first-rate forces in the Chaos Zone combined, were still not as powerful as the Sacred Mountain. Compared to it, what was a small Tiangang sect? This young man is bold and brave. What kind of person is he? At this moment, Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan could feel an inexplicable aura coming from the young man in front of them. It was as if he was fearless in this world. The two outstanding disciples of the second-rate sects were shocked. Courageous and fearless, pressing forward courageously. Chapter 1071. Su Yi smiled faintly and did not say anything. In fact, other than not being afraid of the Big Dipper sect, he was also not as afraid of them as Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan thought. I'm leaving now. See you again. Su Yi did not stay any longer. He waved his hand and left. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan scanned the battlefield once more. Their eyes flickered and they quickly left the place. Just as Shang Wangchen had expected, the 9-star city was in an uproar. On the 10 arenas in the square, the scene that appeared on the light screen caused countless spectators to cry out in surprise. Su-yi is really in the original Void Realm. He's so powerful. There were 8 people from the Big Dipper sect. He killed them all with one palm strike. His strength is really terrifying. Hong Jianxiu is also dead. He didn't even have the chance to escape from Su-yi. This young man is really amazing. In the future, who in this world will be able to defeat him? Gimdao sect, Green Sanctuary sect, 7-star Sword School, Sunblaze sect. It's not surprising that they lost. That's right. Even the young sect master of the Big Dipper sect was killed. Those people from the third-rate forces are just sending themselves to death to Su-yi. I don't know where the Bawang sect came from. He has such a terrifying disciple. He's really bold. He didn't even let the people from the Big Dipper sect go. Similar discussions could be heard everywhere in the square. Everyone was shocked by the power that Su-yi had displayed. That young man did not use many martial skills and easily killed the entire group of people from the Big Dipper sect without any hesitation at all. His murderous and ferocious intent made people unconsciously feel a chill run down their spines. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. The reputation of the Bawang sect also skyrocketed after this incident. Bastard! While everyone was discussing fervently, an old man on the spectator's stand cursed loudly and slammed his palm on the armrest of his seat. With a boom, the entire seat was smashed into fine powder, and the entire ground shook a few times. This old man was Elder Wu from the Tiangang sect. His face was steely green, and his usually calm face was now filled with uncontrollable rage. This scene was naturally seen by many onlookers in the square. The experts of the Heavenly Dipper sect are enraged. I'm afraid they will attack. That Su-yi might be in danger. The Heavenly Dipper sect will not let him off. They will definitely send experts to guard the mystic realm. Once the conference is over, Su-yi will be in big trouble. I wonder if an expert will step forward to protect him. Otherwise, an Origin Void stage youngster would never be able to defeat a second-rate faction. Seeing Elder Wu fly into a rage, many of the people below began to whisper softly. At this moment, many people began to worry about Su-yi, afraid that the youngster would really die in the hands of the Heavenly Dipper sect. Right now, only the experts of the other factions in the alliance would have a chance to protect Su-yi. Moreover, the person who stepped forward might have to be one of the 3 major factions. Otherwise, it would be very difficult. If we don't kill this youngster, how can the Heavenly Dipper sect establish itself in the Chaos region? Elder Wu smashed the chair with his palm and roared furiously. The fat on his face was trembling, and his eyes were as wide as copper bells. 8 disciples, a total of 8 outstanding disciples, were killed in such a short period of time. Most importantly, the young master of the Heavenly Dipper sect, Hong Jianxiu, was among them. Once this matter was investigated by the sect master, as the leader of this alliance conference, Elder Wu would not be able to absolve himself from the blame and would definitely be punished. The alliance conference is a place where life and death are determined by fate. The disciples were not strong enough and wanted to kill but were killed instead. Now the elders are making a fuss here. Where is the decency? At this moment, a cold snort was heard. It came from the green-robed elder Bai from the Blood Sun sect. He glanced at Elder Wu and sneered. Elder Bai, I really can't take this lying down. Elder Wu did not dare to be presumptuous in front of Elder Bai. He immediately bowed and said sorrowfully, You can't blame others for your disciples' failure to live up to expectations. As an elder, you don't even have this bit of composure. How did you get your cultivation? Elder Bai saw Elder Wu's respectful attitude and his tone relaxed a little. However, his words were not polite at all. He continued, however, an eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. At the very most, you can go and block Su-yi outside the mystic realm. He is just an origin void realm brat. He can't do anything. However, I heard that he has a few origin emperors around him, and they are not weak. However, this is nothing to the Heavenly Dipper sect. I just don't know if there will be others who will interfere in this matter. At the end of his words, Elder Bai's gaze shifted and swept across Elder Tang and Elder Xie, who were beside him. When Elder Wu heard these words, he was actually extremely dissatisfied. He really wanted to shout at Elder Bai, "If the one who dies is a disciple of the Blood Sun sect, show me your composure." However, under the suppression of absolute strength, Elder Wu did not dare to refute at all. Su-yi came from the central region. He was originally a disciple of the Shunjian Gate. In order to avoid the sacred mountain, he came to the Chaos region to settle down. It is better for the Nine Stars Valley not to get involved in this matter to prevent any mistakes in the future. In response to Elder Bai's words, the black-robed Elder Tang shook his head gently and said. When the red-robed Elder Xie from the Green Cloud Hall heard this, he did not say anything. He just fell into silence. No one knew what he was thinking. In fact, the people from the three first-rate forces had a strong desire to cherish Su-yi's talent at the beginning. If they were able to recruit such a heaven-defying talent into their sect, he would definitely become a powerhouse that could suppress a region in the future. They would also be able to enjoy the glory of it. However, later on, everyone knew that Su-yi came from the central region and was a disciple of the Xinjian Gate. Moreover, there was an irreconcilable hatred between him and the sacred mountain. In this way, if anyone wanted to protect him, they would have to be more cautious. It was very difficult for the sacred mountain to step into the chaos region. However, this did not mean that they did not have the strength to do so. Once the sacred mountain listed Su-yi as a must-kill, they would pay a huge price to kill him. When that time came, there would be endless trouble. This kind of trouble was not something the three first-rate forces were willing to bear. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for this kid to come to the Chaos region. Elder Xie sighed softly and muttered to himself in a voice that was difficult for outsiders to hear. It was precisely because they did not know if it was a blessing or a curse that the people of the Alliance did not revoke Su-yi's qualification to participate in the Great Spirit Secret Realm. Instead, they allowed him to enter the secret realm of ominous spirits for the second round of the test. To a certain extent, the three first-rate forces were also observing. They wanted to see more from Su-yi to determine if it was worth taking the risk for him. This kid is really good. He is decisive in killing and has no compassion for his enemies. In the crowd, a middle-aged man in a white robe stood. An invisible aura spread out, causing many people around him to be naturally isolated from a certain range. This made the middle-aged man look as if he was in an independent space. This was the person that Elder Xie had called Shangguan Kid earlier. The three first-rate forces were very polite to him. The man with the surname Shangguan looked away from the light screen. The image there had been destroyed and he could no longer see Su-yi's face. However, he was still touched and was extremely surprised by the young man. "Let's wait and see. If necessary, I'll give him a hand," the middle-aged man murmured. He felt that if the Big Dipper sect attacked him, he could probably help a little. For him, some things were just a piece of cake. This kid is starting to cause trouble again. In another part of the crowd, Merciless West, Su Xiaoshui, the Green Emperor, the Yin-Yang Ghost Emperor, the Devouring Spirit Emperor, and Huang Jian were gathered. Beside them were Ji Tianfu of the Xianjian sect, Elder Feng Qizong, and Elder Gu Ming of the Liuhe sect. The scene of Su-yi killing the people of the Big Dipper sect was all witnessed by these people. Seeing that someone from the Big Dipper sect was furious, Merciless West could not help but shake her head and smile bitterly. She felt that wherever Su-yi went there would be trouble. He was a complete troublemaker. What are you afraid of? If the Big Dipper sect dares to touch our boss, we'll raze them to the ground. Su Xiaoshui poked his head out of Merciless West's arms. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Merciless West pushed him back. What should we do? Should we wait outside the Mystery Land and prepare to receive the sect leader? Huang Jian was faintly worried. He also knew how powerful the Big Dipper sect was. It was not something that the Gimdeo sect or the Seven-Star Sword School could compare with. If they did not take action, Su Yi would definitely have a hard time dealing with them. Not for now. The Mystery Land will open in a few days. Let's wait and see. We'll go there then, just in case. Merciless West shook her head and said so. He only felt a little headache. He was really on the verge of breaking down because of Su Yi. The enemies he provoked were getting stronger and stronger. However, although it was a headache, Merciless West also felt that if he encountered such a situation, he would also solve it like Su Yi. There was absolutely no reason to be soft-hearted when dealing with enemies. Speaking of which, none of them were afraid of trouble. When the time comes, let's go together, Ji Tianfu said in a low voice. Elder Feng Qizong and Elder Gu Ming of the Liuhe sect nodded silently, but did not say anything. Their plan was very simple. They would wait and see if they needed to help Su Yi. After all, in this trip to Nine-Star City, the Bawang sect, the Xianjian sect, and the Liuhe sect had vaguely begun to form an alliance. When the time came and they could help, they naturally would not be negligent. Merciless West looked at these people deeply and did not say anything. It was already very good of Ji Tianfu to say so. In fact, if the enemy was too strong, it was reasonable for the Xianjian sect and the Liuhe sect to stay out of it to avoid attracting trouble. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.